Folks, having some technical issues here, but James, I'll let you take over.
That's a way to start.
I couldn't find the trailer to upload it to streamer. This is wonderful.
Welcome to Punt Off episode 10. I can't believe it's already been 10 episodes, but, we started right away and we try to, keep it consistent. Of course, some things got in the way, like COVID for me, jobs for us. But we've made it to 10 and keep it going. Week 8 came and went. This was crazy, John. And by the way, John Alcorn's here, of course, always with me. He's the one that is opinionated beyond belief. He's the one that will tell it like it is, and you just have to sit there and listen to it. How are you, John, tonight?
Well, this football past week has been crap. I mean, my God. We'll get into what's happened for Monday Night Football this past week with the Raiders. I mean, just happy to be here, man, and it has been a crazy, crazy week.
So, week 8, again, came and went, and game picks. We do this almost every week. I went 10-5. You went 5-10. You had a lot of the, underdog
What?
picks.
I went 5-10? I'm done. Yeah. Goodbye. I'm done.
Yeah, it was weird, John. Of course, we both took Baltimore. We both lost with Jacksonville. They just totally, they let Denver basically win. They let Russell Wilson have confidence again. We took the Jaguars bait there, basically. We both had Minnesota. We both almost tied with Carolina and Atlanta. Somehow, like I predicted, a Young Hoku field goal would win the game for the Falcons. For some reason, you picked Chicago. I had Dallas. We both picked the Raiders, and you saw how that went. I had Miami. You had Detroit. Whoops. We both picked the Jets and lost. We were, again, drinking that Kool-Aid. We both had Philadelphia. You went Houston. I went Tennessee. I went Giants. You went the eventual winner Seahawks. I went 49ers. You went the Rams. I went Washington. You went Colts. That game was by a game-winning field goal, I believe. We both picked Buffalo, and then we both lost with Monday night with the Bengals, which was a definite surprise. And we'll get to all that, but it was just a kind of an odd week 8. You had surprises, and then you had teams getting back into form, just like Dak and the Cowboys. You had Seattle solidifying, what they can be. You had Baltimore winning on Thursday night. That was I predicted that, but I didn't expect Tampa Bay to be that bad. Minnesota looking good after the bye week. Philadelphia continuing on. Tennessee still dominating sort of the South in the AFC. San Francisco looking like they're going to take the NFC West. You had Washington still staying alive. Buffalo killing not killing, but they had it in Green Bay. So here's the trailer. Yeah, go ahead, play it, John.
Yeah, great, thank you. I thought I had it last night. Come on, Jimmer, what are you doing?
You're 1-5. Nothing's going right for you.
Because if they can't beat the Rams both times this season, how are they going to win a division?
With the 1-5 record, but still has confidence in their leadership. We still got 11 more games to go. Everybody's been clamoring for her to sell the team.
It would be interesting if that happened. By the way, the new and improved intro there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good, John. I think that hit the head, and we'll have more intros to come, I would think. So let's get to week 9. And the start of that, of course, was Thursday Night Football. Philadelphia facing Houston. And I didn't mean the World Series, which I was watching more than the Thursday night game, surprisingly. I felt like World Series was more important. I actually fell asleep. So I guess baseball can do that in the time of day. Anyway, the Philadelphia Eagles came out victorious like we thought that would happen against the Houston Texans tonight. The final score was 29-17. Like you mentioned to me at halftime, it was tied at 14. I was like, what? Philadelphia was able to score 15 more points. Houston just added 3 more in the third and nothing in the fourth. Philadelphia goes to a best 8-0 in the league. The Houston Texans at 1-6-1. Remember, the tie was against the Colts at the beginning of the season.
And Matt Ryan got benched now.
Yeah. A microcosm of how that South would be with that tied game. Jalen Hurts had 243 yards. He only missed on 6 passes. He threw for 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 4 times. General Davis Mills had 154 yards passing. He threw for 2 touchdowns, but he also threw for 2 picks, and he was sacked 3 times. On the ground for both teams, Miles Sanders had an impressive 93 yards rushing and 1 touchdown, and Gainwell had a rushing touchdown. He's the backup for Philadelphia, and he's really good in that spot with Boston Scott as well. The lone man that everybody can look at fantasy or stats, I would say, is Dameon Pierce, the rookie running back for Houston. He had 27 carries for 139 yards. He averaged 5.1 a carry. He's their lone, guy on the team, honestly. For receiving wise, Dallas Goedert had 8 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. A.J. Brown also had a touchdown. Philip Dorsett was the lead receiver for Houston with 69 yards. Moore and Quit Oriano, whomever that may be, I believe a tight end, caught a touchdown as well. Let's see who got the interceptions for Philadelphia: Bradbury and C.J. Gardner. I was kind of surprised Darius Slay didn't get an interception, but those are 2 guys, and just the stacked defense Philadelphia has. It seems like they're averaging 2 interceptions or more a game. They're that awesome on defense. So I know you were listening to the game. I didn't even see the highlights. I know the Texans had that chrome red helmet tonight with the red jerseys. I thought that looked okay, but luckily you were listening to the game. So what did you think about the Thursday night game here with Philadelphia and Houston?
We're getting to that. I don't know if you know this guy, James. He must be a new viewer of the podcast. He said, "What's up, guys? What's up? It's great to have you. Thank you for tuning in." We just started this right before the season did start, as he asked. Wondering when you guys started the channel. We started this about. We'll tell you this just specific before podcast,
week 1.
But right before week 1, James is kind of like the more calm moderator guy, and obviously, unlike C.J. Smith, I can actually be very expressive with my opinions and actually know what I'm talking about when it comes to the world of football. Saying like the intro, appreciate it, my man. First of all, this is what I say about what before I get to talking about President the Eagles being 8-0. The red zone defense still is a little bit of a question mark for me. I think it's easy to overlook some of their flaws and some of their, again, tiny mistakes when they're 8-0, 9-1, 13-4, 13-3. Packers keep losing in the playoffs. You giving up a red zone touchdown right before halftime is going to be a thing that you're going to have to look at later in the year, because you can't be facing off against Dallas or Washington or these big playoff teams in the playoffs where, you're up by a touchdown right before halftime and you give up that. I think Fletcher Cox, that could have been a little bit of a big deal for them. But going to this team, I'm happy to say that I'm 100% wrong about Jalen Hurts as a starting quarterback in the NFL. This goes back to, regardless of anything else or what the media says or what we say, putting good receivers around a quarterback matters. Clearly, the Packers don't know anything about a receiver or anything. A.J. Brown has totally changed Jalen Hurts in this offense. We appreciate you giving us a follow. Yo, make sure to check him out here on Twitch. Believing in your quarterback and putting in the weapons around him to get the potential. And you're seeing that with a Jalen Hurts or some of these other quarterbacks that we're going to see. And you're right. Jalen Hurts is proving himself. That throw he made to A.J. Brown this past week before this game, into nearly double coverage, I'm like, oh my God. Those type of throws and decisions is what's going to win you big games. But this, to me, Jalen Hurts is a phenomenal quarterback. This team is definitely the best in the NFC East. They're better than the Cowboys. I'm not talking about their 8-0 record because that can be as easy to dissolve quicker than McDonald's fries after 1 year set in the baking sun. Is this hush phone? Their defense, a little bit of a question, but their running attack. Jalen Hurts as a passer is getting better. Because when I talk about teams, I was so impatient about what the Broncos weren't doing before, they're still not doing, or other teams rebuilding, is showing progress. They're not just showing the progress, they're going way above the mark. They're just showing that we were wrong about Jalen Hurts. And there were people like myself and others that were criticizing, though, Carson Wentz is still the guy. But again, he couldn't stay healthy. And he also said nearly undefeated, but lost to the New York Giants. Not once, but twice.
Mm-hmm.
But this team, to me, solidifies in the next couple of weeks. There's a good chance I think they can they'll get the NFC East crown. But deep into the playoffs, I really think it kind of surmounts to what's going to happen with the Rams, the Niners, and some of these other teams late in the season. Because while the Eagles are 8-0 now, what happens if those teams get more healthy? What happens if those teams play a lot better? Then you're going to have to address some of those things now, like you said, missing those couple of throws, red zone defense. All those things are going to be improved upon over time. But, I'm not surprised. I don't know if anyone truly picked, James, the Houston Texans to win this game. I mean, my gosh, from the terrible jerseys to the terrible throws, there is no PR answer, question, or anything of the sorts to say that David Mills, the guy that has a giraffe neck, is the answer for the Houston Texans. Even if he was, which he's not. I mean, my God, look at the 2023 draft. You could get a C.J. Stroud or a couple of these other players. You get Dameon Pierce. Obviously, part of your potential of your offense in the future is running the football. You haven't done really a lot of running the football since the name you have not heard in a long time in Arian Foster, but that's another thing for another day. But congrats to the Eagles. You're 8-0. Prove me wrong. And he's avoiding pressure as well. Texans did show in the first half. That's why I think going back to the red zone defense for the Eagles is going to be a thing because you can do everything on offense. You can do almost everything so-called perfect on defense. When push comes to shove on second and third down, your defense is going to have to shut out on those drives and force field goals and not touchdowns because you go later in the season, go into the playoffs. What are those big moments? Is defensive plays? Jimmy Garoppolo overthrew the receiver. The defense saw what they were doing. You go back to the Patriots and Rams game. It was because of offense, but also a little bit defense was getting the ball 3 and out. And defensive plays later in games could hopefully not be, but potentially be one of the reasons why the Eagles may not get far into the playoffs. But congrats to the Eagles and Jalen Hurts and Texans, man. 1-6-1. James, they could be worse than the 2021 Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
Or the 2019. They remind me of the 2019 Dolphins. Rebuilding, all the players are tracked. You had like one good player at best. It was just David Pierce was this is how you know how bad a team is in rebuilding. When your running back is your best player on your whole entire team, that's how you know how long and bad this rebuild is going to be.
And a rookie running back at that. Two things. Brandon Cooks, of course, was out. He was held out. He'll be at practice tomorrow, and we'll talk more about him later on. And then with Damian Pearson, he's awesome player and whatnot. But yeah, that shows you how maybe behind they are. They could show some spurts like they did against the Raiders, where they gave the Raiders a game in the 3/4 of a game and then lost it in the fourth. But shows you that they have a long way to go. I had another thing, but let's move on.
One last thing though,
Yeah.
Damian Pierce right now is top 12 and I know it's like individual stats. He's top 5 in attempts and is 12th in yards on the season so far. So imagine you have your running back who is going to go to the Pro Bowl. You have over almost 600 yards on the year so far. I mean, my goodness, I just can't believe it. The Texans are running the football, and you're losing games and you're rebuilding. Why wasn't this for us to begin with? I think this shows for other teams in the future that you don't need to get a running back in the top 5 or top 10 pick or the first or second, third. This guy was a 4th round pick out of A&M. We're both older than I'm older than him, and he's balling out.
I know I hate seeing that sometimes. The other thing too, I was following Jalen Hurts, from Alabama and the way he transferred, to Oklahoma, and he showed some good things. And then the way that thing went down with Todd Peterson in Philadelphia, where they held him out the last week and they put Sofield in, and he's just trying to prove himself. And for some reason, I said, I'm going to stick with him. I'm going to hope he does better. And so far, so good. I'm just happy for his success because I felt like he had something that I could see in himself. He wanted to prove that, even though, I got pretty much, replaced in Alabama, I could go somewhere else and do well, go to the next level and do well, and I'll just be fine. And he's proven that so far.
Obviously, I'll tune into the comment here, then I'll get my last point in here. Be tuning in a lot more. We appreciate it, though, because, like I said, podcasts are fun. James and I may agree or disagree. James is more the calm one on the podcast. So, obviously, if you heard any of my rants about the Cows, you'll definitely know that. But last point, though, about Jalen Hurts. You could say strength of schedule or weak. Their schedule obviously has been pretty weak for the rest of the season. But here's the thing. The reason why I don't take any credit to that is because it is so easy. If the Houston Texans had the schedule, if Russell Wilson had the schedule with the Broncos, if this was a Tom Brady, would we be talking about, oh, look what he's doing? Or, oh, look, he's the schedule? Or, oh, look what he's doing. He's putting up the numbers. He's not turning the ball over. Like certain quarterbacks we talk about, we give a different answer or different narrative to the same thing. So if this was a Dallas Cowboys, this was the Washington Commanders, the Chargers, Giants, or Russell Wilson with the Broncos or Tom Brady, would we be saying the same thing? Oh, they have a weak schedule, this, or this, or that. I don't think so. Jalen Hurts is second in the NFL in interceptions, second best in the league, top 6 in QBR, top 13 in passing yards, and top 12 in passing touchdowns. So if at some point you aren't proved about Jalen Hurts, I'll continue to go to game logs. I'm going to beat this down your throat because he is the best young quarterback in the National Football League right now. Because also you're putting the players around them in offense and defense, something they're not doing in Baltimore, something they're barely maybe doing with the Jets. I mean, you beat the Steelers 35-13. You beat Dallas 26-17. So here's you're beating the key NFC opponents early on. And sometimes with a lot of these teams that have the potential, they're not beating these teams early on, but they get a hot hand in like week 7, week 10, but there's not enough here. You beat Detroit, you beat Minnesota, you beat Washington, you beat Jacksonville, you beat Arizona, you beat Dallas. The point is you beat Washington and Dallas. If you can beat 2 or 3 of your opponents both times this season, you're going to win that division.
By the way, not to go all Molly Quirm here and put my 2 cents in, but
no, you didn't interrupt me though. The Molly thing would be you interrupted me.
Yesterday I was doing a show.
But guys, sorry, I pulled a Molly. I'm sorry.
We were going through the rest of the schedule remaining for Philadelphia, and I noticed there was just 2 games that could be tough in New Jersey against the Giants, and then at Arlington against the Cowboys. I think they'll go 16-1. The rest of the schedule just looks pedestrian, honestly. Other from those 2 games, that's That's just what I think. I think they can rest, some players later on as well, and then get ready for that divisional round.
Here's the thing, James. I think you make a good point. This goes back to what if it wasn't for the Carson Wentz injury. I think, like I said, if they win the division in the next 3 to 4 or 5 weeks, you can rest your stars for the last couple of games. Let them rest. Let them practice kind of what they're going to do. Because at that point in time, a lot of these seedings for the NFC West or South or AFC West, East, whatever, North is going to be set. So they can kind of get a good idea who to prepare for and have multiple weeks at a time. And obviously, you said Hurts is obviously probably the best young quarterback right now. It's not Trevor Lawrence. I agree. Because when we talk about rebuilds, we talk about progress. The Jaguars have not made any progress this season. You started off the year 2-1 and lost the last 5 games. I'm asking for any type of improvement as a team. And Trevor Lawrence is still making those terrible throws and that I don't understand. He's not using his mobility to his advantage. You're not taking advantage of what your defense is kind of doing. Jalen Hurts is taking advantage of his mobility. I mean, if you really want to look at kind of like the rushing numbers, one week he had 61 attempts, 16 attempts, 17 11. So you're running the ball. More importantly, you're passing the ball more. And obviously with Trevor Lawrence is you see some throws like regardless of James, we're not offensive coordinator. We're not any coordinator. We're 2 podcast hosts that have a great time. And clearly I'm chilling out in my living room here. But he's still making those boneheaded decisions. And I'm like, oh my God, I saw the throw against Denver. And I'm like, what are you doing? But it's just he just hasn't developed. Again, culture is great. But if you're not winning games, that winning culture doesn't matter. And then he also said, minus Josh Allen, Mahomes, obviously that is the case because they have proven themselves so far in the league. But Jalen Hurts, there's always those guys, the weakness of schedule, or yes, he has the receivers. No kidding, you freaking dumbass. Every quarterback, not obviously themselves, but when you put the players around the quarterback, you can see what they do. Jalen Hurts has proved me wrong. Josh Allen has proved people. Mahomes, second year in the league, won MVP. Lamar Jackson, second year in the league, won MVP. Won a playoff game against Philip Rivers and the Colts. So at some point, you take away the hate. Take away your narrative of, Jalen Hurts isn't this. Well, look what he's doing. Look what he's doing. And I think here, you said, and Tua needs to step up. Well, he actually kind of has, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But thank you for bringing that up, my man.
Against Buffalo, definitely he'll have to.
100%.
Okay. Let's get into our rants about our teams. We both had disappointing week 8s.
No, that's being generous about it.
Well, let's start off just with mine. With the Raiders here, of course, you can see the stuff in the background. I was going to, tear everything down. Not this, of course, but, everything Raiders. I was so pissed off. They lose 24-0 at the Superdome in New Orleans. The Raiders go to 2-5. The Saints, of course, go to 3-5. And, John, remember I mentioned to you that even though they didn't have Michael Thomas, Landry, the Saints still had Kamara. And I thought if you corral him, you have a chance to win. Well, he scored 3 damn touchdowns. And the defense was amazing for the Saints. Reading Derek Carr's stats was just awful. 101 yards passing, no touchdowns, 1 sack or 1 pick, and he was sacked 3 times. The running game, only Jacobs had 43. Hollins had 64 yards receptions. Devontae Adams had 1 more catch than we did for 3 yards. How is the Raiders supposed to win like that? It's just awful.
What?
I am. Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, had the pick for New Orleans, but I just knew at this pretty much second quarter it was 17-0 at half. I was like, the game's over. I'm gonna watch Dallas and Chicago, and with the Raiders now being 2-5, they don't have the offensive line. They're letting Carr get sacked, but Carr, what he does? He just stays in the pocket too long. And it just collapses on him. He just crawls into his little blanket and he just goes to sleep. And it pisses me off so much. I wanted him to step up more often. like he did, with Devontae Adams, getting Mac Hollins involved more. They don't have Darren Waller, but I don't want that to be the excuse. Now with Waller, I know he got his new contract, and whenever that happens, I'm always worried about players not playing their best anymore because they got the bag, quote unquote. It seems like that's happening with the Raiders. Chandler Jones and Max Crosby lately aren't getting any penetration. They traded Hankins to the Cowboys. That only makes their defense better. He didn't really do much with the Raiders, but he was a good run stopper. The corners aren't doing anything. The safeties, Hobbs was out, yes, but I would have thought with Andy Dalton out there, they wouldn't have made him look good, but that did happen with Andy Dalton. He threw for 229 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks, and it seems like he was never touched. He wasn't sacked at all. It was so bad, John. Jarrett Stidham had 13 passing attempts late in the game. They took Carr out. And whenever Carr is out of the game, the Raiders have lost that. It just pisses me off because when you think about it, I had them in the playoffs as a wild card. Obviously, there was expectations, right? Everybody did, yeah. What the hell's going on? Everything has gone wrong. Everything has gone wrong, and you just make the playoffs last year barely by a timeout. Thank you to the coach of the Chargers last year.
Who were they playing in that playoff game? I can't remember.
They lost to Cincinnati in that playoff game.
I just want to make sure that we were
that I couldn't watch because I was at a function. And I thought, okay, they get Devontae Adams, they re-sign Waller, and they get Chandler Jones, which I didn't like in the first place because he's older. Think about it. In 2021, he had a good five first weeks. He had all those sacks, and then he just disappeared. And already he's disappearing here with Max Crosby. Everything I wanted for the Raiders, it's gone now. And I know it's only 7 games, about to be the 8th game into the 9th week here, as they face Jacksonville in Florida. And they never travel well. And I know they went to the IGM Academy, IMG Academy in Florida, and they worked out there. Maybe they could learn something from those academy kids of how to play football. I don't know. Maybe they had joint practices, something. The Raiders are so damn bad, and they were supposed to be winners. And I know everybody's like mid or whatever, and the Raiders are in last place at 2-6, or I'm sorry, 2-5. But if they lose to Jacksonville, you can just cancel the damn season. I'm so mad. Josh McDaniels again had a meeting with Mark Davis after the game in his office, probably giving him a little mean talk or whatever you want to say. But remember, Mark Davis is the one that has the bowl haircut and the backpack like he's
it's like someone started the haircut and then just stopped in the middle of it. And
that's right.
That was it.
He's not
half off though. Don't worry.
It looks like he's not fit to be an owner. Everybody else is dressed in suits. He has a nice leather Raider jacket. He's the one sitting at a fast food place by himself, and people taking pictures of that. I really want Magic Johnson to buy the Raiders. It seems like what he's done with the Dodgers, what he's done with other things in his life, in money wise. He's, bought all those damn Starbucks. That's why you have one on each corner here on the West Coast. He knows how to turn a bad product into a good one. And God willing, he saves the Raiders with whatever group wants to buy in. But yeah, nothing's going right with the Raiders right now. And I'm if we lose to Jacksonville, John, I am done. Okay, so let's get to your team, the Cincinnati Bengals. They lost 32-13 there on Halloween on Monday Night Football. The Browns go to 3-5. The Bengals go to 4-4. Boy, I wish I was 4-4. Second place in the AFC North. It looks like Burrow He did throw for 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, but he was sacked 5 times. It was like a replay of last year, basically. Joe Mixon, which I'm really mad about, he only ran for 27 yards on 8 carries. That really surprised the hell out of me. T. Higgins and Boyd did have touchdowns, but nobody cracked over 50 yards receiving. The defense didn't do well. Jacoby Brissett had a decent game, 278 yards, 1 touchdown. You did get to him twice for sacks. Nick Chubb had his regular 100-yard game, 101 yards rushing, 2 trips to the house. Jacoby Brissett also ran for a touchdown. Amari Cooper shined. And I know the Bengals were without certain guys in the secondary, but he had 5 receptions for 131 yards and a touchdown. And I was just like, is that the Amari Cooper from like the Cowboy days when he would have like one great game, disappear?
The Raiders? That's actually the Raiders. Sorry.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, he would. That, especially the year before he got traded, he showed up sometimes when he wasn't dropping the balls over the middle, like he was scared to catch a ball. But somehow the Bengals defense, they let him do well. McPherson had an extra point miss and I think a missed field goal as well. And that was weird to see. That just showed whatever was going wrong with the Bengals, it happened. Really quick, the A.J. Green, not that A.J. Green, had the pick on Burrow for Cleveland. And then Myles Garrett had a sack and a half. Taki had a big sack. I remember that in the game. Thomas had a sack as well. Jones had a sack also for the Browns. So, John, defend your Bengals.
How do 3 quarters, 0 points? And we'll get to your comments in just a second. I'm at work, James. It's a tough day. I'm like, hey, Siri, what's the score of the Bengals game? And I actually got a game from 5 years ago with Andy Dalton. And then I look, 0 points in 3 quarters. Zach Taylor, you're a joke. I never liked Zach Taylor as their head coach. You're supposed to contend for the playoffs. Jacoby Brissett is not a starter. What are you doing? Protect our quarterback. Like, my God. You draft Jamar Chase. You get Boyd. You get Higgins. And no offensive line. This is a thing that really pisses me off about my Bengals. They've never been able to protect quarterback. Goes all the way back to the Carson Palmer days. It goes back to Andy Dalton. I'm not afraid of Andy Dalton. He's not a good quarterback whatsoever. This goes back to my point. Like he was saying, the Bengals couldn't keep her upright in the pocket. That's the thing. Throughout the playoffs, sack. First of all, Joe Burrow is getting sacked more times than I fart a day after Taco Bell. That's how bad it is. I mean, my God, 0 points. It's not even the offensive coordinator. It's not anything else. It's because that dumb idiot in Mike Brown who can't get those offensive line. You're telling me you have all the money in the world and you don't go after a top offensive line? Are you serious? Like, my God. First of all, let me make it very abundantly freaking clear. After we had free agency in March, you had the trade deadline. Guys got traded. Why would you keep Joe Mixon? I'm looking at Joe Mixon's stats right now because I'm sick of this pathetic running back on our team. If we had a decent running back, at least we would have had a better chance in this game and played a lot better. I played up this, not Mexico, Siri. Mixon. Okay, Joe Mixon. I mean, my God. First year, 626 yards, 2020. The problem with Joe Mixon, for many things, not only is he not consistent, yeah, he had a great year last year because, again, Joe Burrow was playing well, and despite the offensive line not doing their job, Joe Mixon and his health. I mean, my God, he's like Saquon Barkley, but smaller and can't stay healthy. He's just not a good running back. He's not consistent. So somehow, without Jamar Chase, you crapped the bed, you wet the bed, you shard yourself in public out of 50,000 or so people plus, I mean, my God, with that type of game, you shouldn't even be in women's football. You shouldn't be in flag football. You shouldn't be in Madden. You're a travesty. Are you freaking kidding me? The Browns could have traded Kareem Hunt. And obviously, like, you say y'all need Kareem Hunt, who's sound the best all the time. I get it. But I think, unlike a certain team we're going to talk about, you won't trade a player in your own division. But I do agree. We needed a player. Like, even if the running back was getting, like, I don't think that this is all on Joe Mixon. But regardless to who we got, specifically for this game, it wouldn't have mattered because the offensive line still isn't protecting. And imagine this, Mike Brown giving you some advice, so you better listen. The Colts are going to rebuild. They don't have a quarterback next year. You better use your money and picks to go after one of the Colts starting offensive linemen. They paid the most under talked about offensive lineman in the Quentin Nelson. I understand, or you got to get a guy like Quentin Nelson on the Colts offensive line, or go earlier in the draft. But if you do not 100% address that offensive line, sell the team. It's not that hard. You have a once-in-a-lifetime quarterback, and you're trading like David Carr. Are you kidding me? Play some ball. Protect the quarterback. Isn't that hard? Like, it just bothers me. I'm like, there's no way. This is the worst game I have seen the Bengals play in my entire lifetime. Even when I had Carson Palmer's shoulder 2.5 years ago, and I'm sounding like Batman now. Thanks a lot, Joe Mixon. Thanks a lot, Joe Burrow and Mike Brown. Now I'm going to sound like this at work tomorrow. But here's the thing. Out of everything, I'm ready, and I'm super mad. I'm really mad. If you can't protect Joe Burrow, it doesn't matter what Joe Burrow can pull out of his butt or what decision he can say. Okay, the defense is going zone. You're going 3-4. It won't matter because of the offensive line. Protect your quarterback. And that's the problem. If you do not address your offensive line with the Colts offensive line or in the draft next year, you're not going to win the division. Lamar Jackson is playing phenomenal football with a not a good offensive line. One of their starting offensive linemen before the 2021 season was traded to the Chiefs. Okay, Lamar Jackson is playing really good. A lot of passing touchdowns, not a lot of interceptions, run the football really well, despite what he doesn't have, and winning games. But with the Bengals, for some reason, without the offensive line, you're playing piss poor. It's not like that the Baltimore Ravens have a stud top 5 best. It's not like the Baltimore Ravens have the 2016 Cowboys offensive line. But they're still winning games. They're 5-3. Lamar Jackson's in the MVP race. One of your starting best receivers is out for the season. Rashad Bateman, rookie receiver, torn ACL. There's no excuse for playing this piss poor. Unacceptable. That is all because I don't want to lose my voice.
Did we have any more comments from the gentleman there?
Yeah, we did. We said it is real soul rebel. So make sure I pronounce that right. Said, how about the Lions trading for Hawkinson? That's why I mentioned like trading Kareem Hunt. I think it'd be great. The Browns may be stupid, but I'm really going to trade Kareem Hunt in that division. Now, again, you pay him, you obviously need to trade him. I agree. You said super crazy. You said loud noises. And some these. You think that? Oh, he hasn't seen me when we've watched Thursday Night Football or Longhorn games. Oh, James knows how passionate I get about that. I nearly lost my voice. I said my farts. I nearly lost my voice last year during the NFL playoffs. He said, "Look on your show. We'll have to talk about that sometime." As your work schedule is getting, let's just say, a lot more crazy. But again, James, back to you because I don't know what else to say. Play some offense.
Well, let me give your voice a little break, I guess, here. And as you saw in the private chat, I was thinking, hey, let's get to the trade deadline moves before we get into the game picks.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because of, when it happened first. 10 trades were made at the deadline. It was probably the most in a while, and it blew everybody's mind. A lot of teams got what they needed. Some teams didn't get anything at all. Looking at you, Green Bay and the Chargers. The first move that I saw, it was after the Sunday win 2 weeks ago with the Bears. They traded Robert Quinn, the defensive end, who had, I believe, 1 sack coming in. He had, 19 and a half last year. He was a Pro Bowler. They traded him to the Eagles, so they just get better on defense. And God willing, if another injury happens with the defensive line, they have Quinn, that's an edge rusher as well. That just helps them even more. He goes to Philadelphia for a 2023 4th-round pick. And also, let's do the Bears together. The next day, Roquan Smith was at the press conference, the game after, the morning after, I should say, and he was in tears about the Robert Quinn trade. And Smith wanted to be out of Chicago in the preseason, in training camp. He was begging for a trade out of Chicago. He, played with him, and that day, I believe, he was traded to the Baltimore Ravens for a 2023 second round and 5th round picks, and linebacker A.J. Klein going over to the Bears as well. But what did you think about the Bears making those 2 trades defensively, and then what Quinn meant going to the Eagles and what Smith means going to the Ravens?
Here's what Lamar Jackson thinking about Smith. The trade for Roquan Smith, right, is not like your defense was completely the reason why that Lamar Jackson is going to be out of Baltimore. This is what he thinks. No. Look, are you kidding me? This is where you go back to Lamar. Like, I've been consistently critical of Lamar Jackson. You need to put the weapons around him. You're doing all this. I'm saying this, and I'm putting this in the trailer of the show. This may be my dumbest take I've ever had. I'm calling for Harbaugh's job after the season. If you're claiming Lamar Jackson's your quarterback, you're not putting the weapons around him. Your best so-called receiver has a torn ACL. It's not like the Baltimore Ravens were known for offense since the 2000s when they won that Super Bowl. It was because of the defense. But you still have to have some type of offense. The NFL is an offensive-driven league. I think that's a phenomenal trade for your defense. But how does this help Lamar Jackson? Because this what I don't understand.
Catch?
Do what?
Can he catch?
He can't play receiver. Like, if you're going to talk about guys developing with the players you have around him, well, who do you have? Lamar Jackson, top 4 in passing touchdowns. He's 22nd in interceptions, top 5 in QBR, and top 4 in passing touchdowns. He's playing like a top 10 quarterback right now in the National Football League. And yet, you're still not going to put the weapons around him? I mean, my God, we knew that this Watson thing totally was a disaster, but I think this does make their defense a lot better. But like I said, you're one of your so-called really good receivers, Rashad Bateman. He's out for the year with a torn ACL. So regardless of, we know the NFL is an offensive-driven league in all these different scenarios. But if your tight end is your number 1 receiving weapon, who he's not set to be potentially an all-pro, you're not winning a Super Bowl. You're not winning the division. At some point, it's going to go into shambles, just like the Kim Kardashian and their many relationships, more quicker than Stephen A. Smith and LeBron's hairline disappearing. But, I mean, my God, like, you have a once-in-a-lifetime talent that is the closest thing to Michael Vick we're ever going to get ever again in the National Football League. And yet, who is getting better as a passer. You're 5-3, completing 63% of his passes, top 5 in QBR. I got people like saying, I say, receiver. If he trades out receiver, he'll be really good. Well, he's top 4 in passing touchdowns. He's top 5 in QBR. And if we go into some of these games, let's go to, your key divisional opponents. You beat them. You beat my Bengals. You beat the Browns. Okay, that's already good right there. You can say, oh, it's the Browns. It doesn't matter. Divisional opponent games are much tougher than people think, regardless of the talent on the team. You beat the Jets 24-9. You beat New England 37-26. Yes, you lose against Buffalo, but it's only by 3 points. So even when you're losing, it's by under 5 points. It's not like you're losing by 15, 20 plus points we're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So clearly, defense is not an issue. If you're losing by 4 points or less, clearly your defense is not that big. If you're losing by 10, 15 plus points, that means either your defense is giving up a lot of empty calorie yards later in the game, or your offense isn't producing. Clearly, your offense is producing your top 4 in passing touchdowns and top 5 in QBR. So clearly, defense is not much of an issue. Neither is your offense. And you're still not putting the weapons around it? I mean, my God, you beat Tampa Bay, you beat Cleveland, you beat my Bengals, you beat New England, you beat the Jets. I mean, so far to the first, let's say, against the Jets, 1, 2, 3, you're 5-3 on the season. Imagine if you put a weapon around him. That trade was great on defense, but it's not like the Ravens are struggling on defense. That's what I don't understand. What is the Ravens' mindset? Oh, we're going to get a defensive player, and somehow this is going to help the offensive production. The offensive production is not struggling when he has over 1,600 passing yards. Your top offensive lineman, Marshawn Yonda, retired before the training camp in 2021. Your other guy has been with the Chiefs, second season with the Chiefs. All your great offensive linemen are gone, and you're still playing great football. You're one of your veteran defensive players, you're released. So what I'm not understanding is you have the trade deadline. Even if you get a guy that you rent for the next 10 to 12 games, that's fine. That's better than what you're doing. And that's why I say you're a great point. The Ravens are solid. Defense is fine because even the games they're losing, they're not by double digits. They're by 5 points or less. They need to trade for an elite receiver. This is why it's almost like the Packers GM is also the Ravens GM. You have a quarterback who's playing good football without top receivers and Lamar Jackson. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is not playing top football, so there's no excuse there. But I keep going on this break because I don't understand. Do you believe in Lamar Jackson or do you not? When you have the Dolphins, you have the Eagles, and a couple other teams in the NFL. You get the receivers, you believe in them. Tyreek Hill, first in receiving yards. Jalen Waddle, third in receiving yards. Those picks you got to San Francisco. The San Francisco trade those picks to you, or vice versa, to get Trey Lance, and he hasn't worked out. At some point, if you do not trade for a receiver, I wouldn't be surprised. Despite all this defense, they'll be fine. Defensive production is not an issue. I wouldn't be surprised, James. I could see Lamar Jackson leaving the Ravens after this year. Remember, he's going to be free. What incentive does Lamar Jackson have to do to stay with the Ravens? You're not going to provide with receivers. You're going to keep addressing the defense. I think he's a phenomenal player. That's not a question. But when you get veteran guys like Calais Campbell, and you tried to get what's his name for a while, but that didn't work out. I think he went to like Minnesota. I don't know. I say Josh Allen. Yannick Ngakoue. That worked for a short bit. So you keep trading defense. But at some point, you need an offense. And when your quarterback's completing 63% of his passes, and you have over 148 completions on the year, why are you not trading for a receiver? Clearly, you're playing for him to be gone after the year. I don't see in any scenario here, James, where Lamar Jackson stays with Baltimore after the year.
I did mention Quinn to the Eagles, but it's really a minor move, but it just makes the Eagles better. This one I know you're very interested in. The Denver Broncos felt like they had linebacking set for the future. They trade Bradley Chubb and a 2025 fifth-round pick to Miami in exchange for a first-round pick next draft, and in 2024, a fourth-round pick and running back Chase Edmonds, in which Denver really needs a running back. They lost 2 this year so far to season-ending injuries. Remember Javonte Williams in the Raider game? And, I forget the other guy's name, but he had to step in. Melvin Gordon. No, he's a receiver. They lost him, though, at the first day of training camp. But Melvin Gordon has funbulitis, or did, and he seems to keep getting benched. So that's a good move there for Denver, realizing, hey, you got to cut something, and maybe get something for Chubb. For Chubb. So that first round pick, and of course Denver, trading for Russell Wilson, they traded a lot of draft picks away. At least they get again a first rounder next year and a fourth in 2024. But what did you think about Miami beefing up their good defense and making them slightly better? You have Jones and Howard there in the secondary. You have a really good defensive line, excuse me. You have good linebackers. It only gets better with Chubb headed down to South Beach.
Somewhere the Ravens and Packers GM is punching air because you not all. Sorry, I just have a bunch of Naruto clips a while back. The thing is, James, they clearly think this team can contend for not just the AFC East, but the AFC. I mean, you don't trade make big baller decisions. Sorry, LeVar, don't copyright strike me for saying that, because you trade for Bradley Chubb, you get Jay Waddle in the draft, you trade those picks for Tyreek Hill, and some people were saying, "Oh, what are you doing?" Because Tua can't throw the ball down the field. The defense was never necessarily the biggest deal. Going back to the Broncos though for a second, drafting Bradley Chubb, the whole plan was Bob Miller, Bradley Chubb. That's going to be a scary deal. But early on in Bradley Chubb's career, he could not stay healthy. But like I said, this trade is really good, but it's also very, very risky because while he's a phenomenal player, if he can stay healthy, he can make this defense even better. I mean, this is the same team that traded for that cornerback from the Cowboys years ago, Byron Jones. You've had some really, really good players, but this team is ready to contend. I think when you look at Tua, which we'll talk about just a little bit, this whole team is for real. They're making moves on not just the offense and the defense. They're making moves to help their quarterback, something that the Packers aren't doing. Obviously, because Aaron Rodgers is holding them hostage. Baltimore's not making those moves. Like, what excuses? After every single move, despite the rumors for Mike Gesicki being traded, which obviously was smart not to trade him because you're trying to contend for the playoffs. I mean, my God. Making all those moves for Tua while the Ravens, the Packers, and these other teams aren't making anything. How does that not make any sense? And Miami Dolphins have proved me wrong. And I love what they're doing there. And they're really, really good team. They're the second best team in that division. Like I said, with the Jets, that sooner or later is going to buff up in their face. And unfortunately, that's because of Breece Hall out for the year with a torn ACL. But I mean, they're making those moves. I'm happy for. Imagine Bradley Chubb through the 2027 season. He's going to be in Florida, relaxing on the beach. Screw Nathaniel Hackett. Screw Russell Wilson. I get to play with Tua, who's a better quarterback.
So we mentioned Tua, and just got to get this in. I know we'll go off the rails for just a little bit with Tua Tagovailoa's passing stats in the 5 games that he's played full. Remember, he was out a half and a quarter, or what was it? A half and a whole game. For the season so far in those 5 total games, 122 for 191. That's his passing attempts. 1,568 yards, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 130 total points, 26 points per game. And those are stats I don't think anybody really thought he could do, especially the first 2 years of his career. But like I mentioned to you in the pre-show, and you brought the first point up. What was it, in May? No, I'm sorry, in June, I believe, or July.
In May. Practice field, yeah.
They had the OTAs, I guess. And all that was showing was Tua missing Tyreek Hill on the long pass, and the throw was wobbly. Okay, we all saw that, and everybody judged him right away. And then I saw him before a preseason game this year. I think it was against the Raiders before the game. He was literally mimicking every play, every audible, and every throw, every handoff. It seemed like in the playbook. I mean, that shows you someone who dedicated his time. He cares. I don't see a lot of quarterbacks doing that, or at least it's not shown. I just see, Rodgers and Brady, Mahomes just walking in basically, and then they go out and warm up. But Tua, he's becoming astute with his play calling, and it just started from that moment. When you knew the pressure was on him, half of the locker room was not in favor of him. Half of it was last year. And everybody wondered, can he be good? And so far this year, he's been awesome. Remember the first game against Baltimore, he threw for 6 touchdowns, over 400 yards.
Of his passes.
And that's awesome to see because that never happened. Remember, in 2020, they brought in Fitzpatrick to replace him sometime. They brought in Brissett last year. They never believed in him. And now it seems like Tua has the tools, especially with Hill, with Waddle, with Gesicki. By the way, Gesicki was rumored in trade talks. And I was like, no, they have to keep him.
That makes no sense.
Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, no, that can't be right. Anyway, 12-3 again, his ratio, touchdowns to interceptions. What do you think about Tua's uprising so far? And, of course, they have a wild card spot, and they're trying to get at the Bills. So they beat them, of course, this year down in South Beach, but eventually they're going to have to play them in Orchard Park, New York. So what do you think about Tua's revival season so far?
Here's the thing. This is what bothers me about sports media, and I want to do the opposite. Not all sports media people is this. We're so focused on our bias towards certain things like we see in certain years when people were going into office or anything else or sports or family or anything. We're so stuck on treat this like a marriage or a relationship. Are you going to focus on the one thing your husband or fiance forgot one time? So you forgot get your soda out of the fridge. You forgot to buy dinner one time, or you can focus on literally everything else. She's great. She's a great mother. She's great at sex. She's great at everything. That you focus on that one tiny little thing. It's like, my God, this is the problem. It's like you always focus, and I was like that too a little bit. Oh, 2 in the wobbly arm, 2 in the wobbly arm. Well, guess what? He addressed that. So at some point, we're going to stick to our narrative of Tua this. He's left-handed. I don't know if he can throw the deep ball. Well, guess what? Like James was saying, I'm going to say these stats again because they're crazy. 122 for 191 attempts, 1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Mind you, if you want to go to even further, he has more touchdowns than obviously Tom Brady. We'll continue to look at his numbers, and we'll look at him overall in terms of QBR and everything else. Tua right now, top 7 in passing touchdowns, 5th best in interceptions. He's not turning the ball over. You're 5-0, where he started all 4 quarters. He's first in QBR is 78.7. So everything that we're talked about so far, accuracy and the deep ball, he's addressed. So when are we going to stop this narrative of, oh my gosh, Tua, I don't know about this, or Herbert or these other guys? Stop with your narrative BS. Tua is proving everyone wrong so far. But like you said, you're going to have to go to Buffalo to beat Buffalo. And if you can beat Buffalo in Buffalo, then I can be like, okay, this team is not only a playoff contender, they're a Super Bowl contender. There's a whole point of these teams that are showing the progress, that are making these steps, is making that next step. To try to be the best or one of the best, you have to defeat that Goliath. And Buffalo did it, or Bengals did it against Kansas City. Buffalo needs to do it this year, but they have to beat Buffalo. At some point, when you look at these Super Bowl contenders or teams that won the Super Bowl, they beat those deep divisional opponents. They got over the hump. And at some point, you're going to have to beat those divisional teams later in the season. Right now, the reason why it's so valuable back to the Bradley Chubb trade is because you're addressing every single piece on offense and defense and a lot of running game, and you're seeing the progress of Tua. But like you said here, he has a long way to go, and there's no chance the Dolphins have against the Bills this year. I think they could. Now, mind you, anything can happen next couple of weeks. There could be some injuries. But bar none, I think the most interesting game this year, after first 7, 8.5, almost 9 weeks, Bills and Dolphins later this season in Buffalo could be really good. Because if you see Tua get better as a passer, and when they play Buffalo, though, James, before we get to our continue on the podcast here, if Tua against Buffalo doesn't have little to no turnovers, limits his turnovers, they run the ball, get time of possession. I mean, what other tiny excuse do we have to give for hating on Tua as a quarterback? If you beat Buffalo in Buffalo, you have little to no turnovers. At one point, are we going to stop this thing of, oh my gosh, Tua is a left-handed quarterback, he can't play. Tua right now is playing football. So how about the Jets, though? I mean,
I hope
this
they
past
continue.
week is an indication. But like you said, with other guys with the weapons or defense, the quarterback is playing really well. And I think at some point, some media members are so they did it on that one point. They're so stuck on, Tua this, Tua that. Tua is proving all of us wrong so far. And if he can go and beat Buffalo in Buffalo, I think that Miami could be, frankly, the surprise team this year.
Hopefully Zach Wilson could play better. You were talking about, quarterbacks not doing well.
He played better off the field than he did on the field.
That's right. Speaking about the Bills real quick, Naheem Hines went to Buffalo. He was stuck behind Jonathan Taylor. Zach Moss went in that deal to the Colts. I think that was a off the grid deal, but it was helpful, I think, for both teams. Getting back to the trade talk. Hey, John, remember Calvin Ridley?
Wait, James, what team did he go to? I bet you I'm going to get fined by the NFL, but I bet you I know where he went. I'll give you 11 guesses.
Well, yeah.
Because he got fined at $11 million.
Yeah. Remember, what was it? Last season, he was out for an injury, and he did some, online gambling. He was suspended for all of this season for betting the Falcons would beat the Jaguars, and he was fined $11 million. $11 million?
More than Deshaun Watson, by the way.
Yeah. Well, the Falcons did him dirty, basically. Trading him trading him to the Jaguars for compensation that could rise to a 5th-round pick next year and a 2024.
He doesn't even play.
A 2024 2nd-round pick in a couple of years from now.
How?
Dude,
sorry.
Yeah. When I read this, I was like, "No, this can't be true."
There's no way.
There's no way. Like, no, like, no way. But it happened, and it just makes me, I feel bad for him, no doubt about it. As we talked about before,
right?
He shouldn't have been suspended the whole season, or this much. And this is just another body blow to him, basically, especially to go to Jacksonville with all the other receivers they'll have for years to come. He's got to fit in there with Kirk and I forget who else they signed, Jones, I believe. Jones Jr., yeah. Karma's weird, but John, this one just took the cake with all the madness that happened with the 10 trade deadline picks or trades. This one just amazed me, and it brings me to another opinion of mine, and I'm real strong about it. I think if a player is suspended, he shouldn't be traded. You could cut him or release him. but traded, I feel like that's just brutal in a way. I don't know. Maybe I just feel bad for Ridley. What do you think about this wild trade that was?
Great, thank you, Johnny. Forgot to unmute you. Said, it's been that type of week, folks. There's no reason for the NFL to suspend him in the first place, because when you give a guy who bet not much money at all with a league who's partnered with FanDuel, former players working with FanDuel, Pat McAfee, no disrespect to them, you're partnered with DraftKings and all these sports betting companies. And yet that's not a problem. You're doing NFTs. You have Madden, which technically is kind of like a gambling game, because you have Ultimate Team. It's not guaranteed you get that 105 overall Randy Moss. But if you buy this elite red pack, then there's a chance, a 1 in 500 chance that you can get it. That's gambling, James. And Madden Ultimate Team by EA, the National Football League, stupid fat air biscuits. You literally, it is sorry, it's no word for fart. I'm sorry. Not really. Like, that's promoting it, Jay. I remember I played Ultimate Team one time, and essentially, if there's a chance, okay, you got this card pack, you get this elite player, 85 overall. I spend, like, say, $300, and I get a 65 overall tight end. Honestly, I didn't spend $300 or $3, but it's hypothetical, and I don't get it. That's gambling. You promote that without promoting it in Madden with these sports betting companies. You should spend Calvin Ridley for a whole season and $11 million. Like, that's super hypocritical. And you punish a guy more for betting on his team in preseason more than you do to Deshaun Watson. So that tells me with how you spending him more and you punished Calvin Ridley, got punished more than Deshaun Watson. Clearly, it's not about getting a punishment, because the problem with the NFL, as much as I love the NFL, I'm going to hold them accountable. When a player violates their code of conduct, what the fuck does that mean? That's so vague. It's like saying, James, I had a teacher in high school. Not a bad guy, but it wasn't my favorite teacher. But he's like, okay, I got it wrong. Okay, great. Well, what part did I get wrong? What can I do better? What can I do to understand? That's the same thing with the NFL conduct policy. You violate the personal conduct. At what point? How does that make any sense? Which one is it? So you bring Deshaun Watson back to the Texans in Week 13. Obviously, it's for money. It's not about actually making sure the player learns a lesson. The whole point is he goes to Jacksonville. Trent Baalke. You authorize a trade for a guy who I guarantee you is not going to play a single game for you. And you give up a 5th-round pick. Any first, second, even a 7th-round pick would be too much, because he's not going to play for him. Now, if I'm the Falcons, I would have just outright released him, because the fact is you didn't draft Drake London and Kyle Pitts in the first round in the past 2 years to have a former speed receiver come back in 2023. He was going to be gone from the Falcons anyways. To me, this is a big FU to Calvin Ridley. But let's also go back to the NFL. You clearly need to change your conduct policies to not make him vague whatsoever. Because when you say personal conduct policy, we don't understand what that means. And they say you play MUT, but I don't have no money spent yet. Now it's something people that play MUT. I'm just giving you an example for the National Football League where you say no gambling. We partner with sports betting companies, NFTs, YouTubers, and people that have been literally in legal lawsuits to go to jail for NFTs because they're using them for pump and dumps. And yet Madden promotes that with MUT, but yet a guy that bets in preseason, which doesn't matter, it doesn't hurt you whatsoever, is somehow a bigger villain than a guy who uses status as the NFL quarterback for the Houston Texans to get off. I mean, how does that make any sense? But honestly, it's so funny, Jay. I read that. I'm like, there's no way. This has to be one of those that was like a fake thing or someone hacked his account. Cap really is with the Jaguars. Why didn't you just outright release him? You weren't gonna lose. You weren't gonna have any dead cap against your cap for this year or next year. Why not release him? Like, he's not gonna play for you. But Trent Baalke, well, that's one of many reasons why I think Trent Baalke needs to go.
Yeah, for years it seems like. Let's move on quickly. Before I lose my place, there it is. The Lions traded tight end T.J. Hawkinson within the division to the Minnesota Vikings, and also a fourth-round pick in next year's draft and a conditional fourth-rounder in 2024. Minnesota receives, of course, Hawkinson. They trade for a 2023 second rounder and a 2024 third rounder. I'm never for in-division trades. I don't know if you are as well, but and maybe it's just the disparity of first place and last place, like these teams are, that validates this, but I don't like it. I never did. But again, that disparity from first place and last place is huge right now. The directions of each team. One's going toward the moon, one is going under. And going under fast, which is the Lions. That's their main target. Of course, in free agency, they lost someone last year or after last season. That was their main target. And the Lions just are self-destructing. They had the best offense. That's gone. They had the worst defense. They still do. Jared Goff has been really bad. The Vikings, this just makes them stronger offensively. I know there was a lot of shocked Viking fans. I know of one. I said we didn't even really need Hawkinson. We needed defense. We needed to shore up the defense because I know they have Darius Smith and he just won Defensive Player of the Week, but there could have been something better, in the linebacking corp or in the secondary. But they went the offensive route, and it makes them even stronger. Irv Smith Jr. got hurt at tight end, so Hawkinson, that's a better replacement right there to go along with Osborne and Jefferson and Thielen. Oh, shoot, you got the world there with Kirk Cousins. Remember, Kirk Cousins ran for a touchdown, even made the week even better, it seemed like. But
Kirk Cousins ran for a touchdown.
That's weird. And like a 17-yarder, too. It wasn't like a 1-yarder.
I thought he had Peyton Manning speed.
Yeah. What did you think about the Lions trading T.J. Hawkinson in division to Minnesota?
As we said in the trailer, you're still 1-5, 1-6, and you still believe in their leadership. I don't like trading in division, not because, it hurts your team that's 1-5, 1-6. I don't care. It's how does that make sense? Because you're going to have to face against the guy. You traded him for a reason because he's a really good player. It's not like you were going to get this magical for. This is the same team, James, a couple of years ago that drafted 4 or 5 tight ends in the NFL draft. That same team in Detroit that drafted multiple tight ends. In the entire, most of the draft was tight end. It's the same. And you traded one of your best players offensively because that's been their struggle was receivers this past season, and obviously this year. I mean, what do you trade to Minnesota? I get it helps Minnesota. Great. Give Kirk Cousins another reason to have more passing yards and better touchdowns. That's a smart decision. It hurts you and it helps your debate. If you're trying to beat my guy. If you're trying to beat your divisional opponents, why are you giving away your best players to your divisional opponents? Let's say, hey, I'm Detroit. I'm trading my tenant. Tell me how that makes sense. I'm trying to do better. I'm trying not to eat as much fast food or drink as much. Let me buy 100 cases of beer and put it in the freezer. How does that make sense? The logic is so stupid. This is why culture doesn't necessarily matter if you're not winning. Dan Cohen has had a really decent culture, but you're not winning football games. So at some point, you trade your best tight end. Jamal Williams is not playing or having the impact on the field like Von Miller is with the Bills. Jared Goff is I wouldn't say turning into, because this is what he's always been, second overall pick in 2016. Why would you trade? That's like, let's say, if I go, my Bengals traded Joe Mixon to the Steelers.
Yeah.
That's like saying if T. Higgins goes to the Browns. How does that make sense? That's so stupid. I can't believe it because It's not because it's a dumb trade because if you can't defeat the way you could have played better against your divisional opponent, you traded that player away. Like this, are you sure Isaiah is not the GM for the Lions?
It seems like it. They didn't even get a first round pick for Hawkinson.
What did they even get for him? I don't even remember.
It was a second in next year's draft, and then in 2024 a third round pick. Not even a first round pick, John.
Wait, hold on. What was his? I can't remember. What's his name again? T.J. Hawkinson.
The what?
The T.J. Hawkinson.
The Vikings gave
they
up.
Traded him. No,
yeah,
I'm saying the player that was with Detroit.
Oh, T.J. Hawkinson.
Yeah, that's what I was like. That was his name, right?
Right. Yeah, all they got.
I asked that because like it's not like he was terrible. I mean, my God. I mean, he's not great either. But this guy, the first let's say couple of years, he has 3 touchdowns on the year, almost 400 yards. I don't know what they're looking at because I think let me look at his numbers and make sure I can give a right punt. All right, first couple years. I mean, technically, a second and third round pick is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
His first year only had 300 yards. Next year, career year, 723 yards, 5 touchdowns. This year, 6 touchdowns. Sorry. Next year, he had 583 yards. So that's not necessarily that bad, but it's having more criticized because you trade for him in your own division. Yeah, I'm not saying like tight end numbers are not going to be crazy. He's one of your best players because not only can he catch the ball, like I said, I know he said he's a top 5 tight end this year because he's not only catching the ball but blocking. And what's been a struggle for Detroit for many, many things is blocking, protecting, and you put one of your best blockers and really good top offensive players to your division. That's like the Niners traded George Kittle to the Cardinals.
Yeah,
that is like if my Bengals traded Jamar Chase to the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
It's very stupid.
Speaking of Steelers, good segue. The NFC North and the Bears were busy at the trade deadline here. They traded for a wide receiver, Clay Claypool from Pittsburgh, in exchange for a 2023 second-round pick. That goes to Pittsburgh. For me, it feels like they're just trying to save Justin Fields this season. Again, they have so much cap space next year in the offseason, I should say, for next season. It seems like after one good season with Claypool, he just never did well enough for the Steelers. He fell out of favor. He would do stupid things. Like, remember the game last year? I think it was a Thursday night in Minnesota.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Remember he signaled for first down, and they had to get the ball spotted and the spike or whatnot, and they let time get off. I think they still tied it anyway. But it's these little things that make you say, well, he's great on social media, but sometimes he loses his head on the field. Hopefully, he can find his way with the Bears here. Again, getting Justin Fields some type of deep threat if he can get the ball out. It's all on Justin Fields, of course, but it helps him because, with Mooney, other guys there with the Bears are not so good. This does help them, again, for this year. If they want to try to get a wild card spot, it's very tough. But they're in the mix of things. And I don't think anybody thought that, the Bears would be. But this helped the Bears slightly here. What did you think about Claypool going to Pittsburgh?
The thing with the Steelers, they didn't need him. They didn't need Juju because what the Steelers are doing really, really well out of anything else, and people are talking about it, but not talking about it enough. No matter who they draft at the receiver position, he turns out to be a Pro Bowl player. You had Emmanuel Sanders before he went to Denver. You have George Pickens, who early on already made a phenomenal one-handed catch. You had Juju Smith coming out of USC. You've had there's another receiver, Dante Johnson, a phenomenal, like a really good player. But when you're drafting all these receivers and they're making some decent plays, you can't expect a Claypool to have 60 receptions for 1,000 yards and Pickett to have 1,000. It's just not realistic in the National Football League. So I think that's definitely part of it there. Because like I said, next year you'll draft another receiver in the late rounds. He'll develop into a really good player. That's necessarily a Pro Bowler, but he's a really, really good player on third and fourth down. Honestly, I think it's great for Chicago. Now, he's not a number one receiver. I don't think he is whatsoever. But I think he could solidify. But frankly, I don't know what he can solidify. He's not necessarily if he could go good at RPOs or a deep threat. Who knows? But I think I'm not saying he's going to shine in Chicago, but we could either see if he is a legit receiver in the NFL or not. Is that going to expose him? And the RPOs are a deep threat. It's either going to show that, hey, the series had a bunch of receiving weapons and he couldn't produce and he was under targeted, or it's just going to expose him for what he is, and he's not a great receiver in the National Football League. But it's great for Justin Fields, but this still doesn't answer their true number one receiving weapon whatsoever.
Nope. I'm going to do a pop quiz with you, and after I respond
none of the above.
You
467.
Good job. I'll give it to you, but winners and losers of the deadline. I'll let you think of 3 winners and 3 losers. For me, the 3 winners was, of course, Miami. I'm going to definitely go Philadelphia. And then I will go with did I say Miami? I forgot. Yeah, I said Miami, I said Philadelphia, and I want to say I'll throw in Minnesota. And then my 3 losers of the deadline, I felt like the Chargers could have got better with some offensive line help or some running back help. There was running backs out there that were not traded.
Cam Akers.
Right. We'll get to him later about that. And Kareem Hunt as well.
Greg Kicker.
Yeah. Chargers, and I felt like the Packers not going. Well, the thing was they don't have enough.
Did the Packers actually lose because they didn't actually do anything?
No, they were just bad. DJ Moore, they couldn't have enough money. They couldn't make it work there this year. But they could have gone out and got somebody different. And they could have run the ball more, but that's another subject. So I felt Chargers, Green Bay, and then my third loser would probably be, and this might shock you, if you're all in for this season, I would say the Giants. I thought maybe they could get another receiver. I thought maybe to make
they trade one of the receivers away to Kansas City.
Yeah, so I thought with that open space, you could bring in somebody. And we were talking about Tony, of course, that never fit in well with the Giants his first 2 years here. I thought they would make a move. And since they lost Shepard already, Galladay is a nowhere man, basically. I thought, make this season worthwhile. You have a great record. You could do that. So my losers were definitely Chargers, Giants, and I'm blanking on the other one. What did I say? Packers. Yeah, Packers.
Detroit.
That's true, but the Packers are playing for something. Obviously, these are 3 teams that are supposed to be playing for something. Chargers, Packers, Giants. That's why I say that. So who's your winners and losers of the deadline?
First of all, loser is Detroit. No, I'm just kidding. The winners, honestly, number one, I would have to say is not because. No, I'm not even going to say that. I think this is ridiculous. I think it's Miami 100% the biggest winner. My gosh, not only do you get Bradley Chubb, your players are playing really well. You're just adding pieces to make this team play better. Number 2, I would say for winners, honestly, how do I put this? The Steelers. Because they got rid of Chase Claypool and that distraction on TikTok.
Yeah.
A business decision. Obviously, I'm joking there. Number 2, though, I don't know if you really have, like, how do you put this? Looking at a couple of these other ones, I don't want to be careful because I've said some hot takes this past couple weeks, and it hasn't worked out. Winners, I would say, is the Falcons because they got rid of Calvin Ridley. You have your weapons, and again, it was just going to be a distraction in terms of a distraction in the offseason where do you re-sign him? Do you have to trade him? All these different distractions where, I mean, you have Drake London, you have Kyle Pitts. Number 3, honestly, I'm going to say, frankly, is Seattle. They didn't do anything, but they stick with what they have. Geno Smith is playing really well. I think a lot of times what some teams do is they try to reinvent the wheel. They have some little bit of success. It gets to their head, and then they just blow it up in their own face. But again, they're 5-3 right now, playing really well. Losers are a lot easier because, number 1, it's the Giants. I didn't think that they were going to make the playoffs, and I still don't. I get your 6-1 or 6-2, but again, it's going to blow up in their face at some point in time. Despite James Jones and his mobility, he's not a really great thrower. I mean, some of these games, he's not even throwing for 120, 150 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. So what do you expect to happen? Number 2, I have to say is Green Bay. I mean, we know honestly, they're not shooting for anything this year. Let's be honest. I'll be surprised if Green Bay makes the playoffs this year. I really will because how piss poor they are playing. I picked Minnesota to win the division. But I think with Green Bay not sticking to their guts and having the balls to stick up to Aaron Rodgers has really screwed them up. I'm not saying Jordan Love is the guy. I'm not saying he is or isn't. But you don't draft a quarterback in the first round for no reason, for him to sit on the bench and not play or start any game in the regular season. So that's just me. Number 3, for loser, I may have I guess you could say a tie here, maybe. You go to Detroit and Carolina, because specifically for DJ Moore, because DJ Moore is one of the most underrated receivers in the National Football League. And consistently, if you want to look at terms of stats, we'll go there. All right, DJ Moore. If you really want to look at it, because you talk about players that are under the radar, not getting talked about enough. 2019 through 2021, over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. That's phenomenal against a team that has not been in contention since the 2015-2016 season. Since I was my senior year in high school. I'm doing 25 next month. It's only 6.5 years ago. 7 years ago was the last time they were a true contender. And he wasn't even on that team. So I think it just shows how guys that don't get talked about enough because they're on such a terrible team, they don't get necessarily their fair shot. I really think that trading for DJ Moore was going to be a better decision than it was for Chase Claypool. But it's not necessarily – but I think it also goes back to how much was Carolina asking for? Were they getting kind of greedy? Because they kind of saw that with a couple other players. I can't remember who it was, like McCaffrey, or a team with another player that you were thinking we're going to get this, a first-round pick, or yada, yada. And then you're swallowed. You probably realize, we're probably not going to get that. And then, boom, you settle for what you got. And obviously, it's worked out for the Niners so far as they're 2-0 with Christian McCaffrey. But I said DJ Moore, I think, is my biggest one in terms of players because this guy has performed every single year. He had 93 receptions last year. And nobody's talking about that. How many different quarterbacks has he played with since he entered the league in 2018? And yet nobody's talking about it because it's Carolina. Like, it's the same thing. I'm not saying he's playing like Hawkins like numbers, but it's very similar. 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards. And he's having a career year in yards per catch technically since 2019 or since technically 2020. I mean, what do you expect? I think he's getting the raw. He deserves to be on the team that's actually trying to prove themselves.
That's right. That's a good segue. You talk about DJ Moore. He should have been a player that was traded. Brandon Cooks, Cam Akers, Kareem Hunt. Anybody want him? Anybody want him? Anybody want to improve their situation? No? Just keep them where they are? Okay.
Didn't they pay Kareem Hunt?
I thought they did.
You did.
Watching that Monday game, not to bring it back up, But
Thank
it looked
you,
like
James. I'm done. Goodbye. I'm gonna be right back.
I thought Kareem Hunt was going to get traded. It looked like he was on the sideline and he was kind of, I don't know if he was teary-eyed or whatnot, but it looked like he was going to get traded. And they talked about it right after I mentioned to my family members. They said, yeah, he's one guy that's going to looked to get traded because the deadline was the day after, of course, on the 1st. I thought he was going to get traded. It looked like, he was kind of sentimental about his time with the Browns, but nothing came about. Cam Akers, of course, he's had issues with the Rams not using him right, supposedly. But, okay, he didn't get traded. He returned to practice on the 4th here, or on the 3rd here on Thursday. And then he backtracks and said, hey, he never asked for a trade. No, I never asked for a trade. And there's a real possibility now that he's going to play on Sunday, which surprises, I think, everyone. It's his first practice. It's week 6 with Cam Akers since he was labeled by McVay that he would be out for personal reasons. But I think he's lying, of course, with Akers, saying he never wanted to be traded. That's one situation there. I mentioned Kareem Hunt. I mentioned Akers. And I mentioned Brandon Cooks. And, of course, this is right in your hometown, or near there, I should say. Yeah, of course, he missed the Thursday night game because he pretty much missed practice all week long, thinking he wasn't even going to be there. He's like, oh, screw all y'all. I'm out of here.
I wonder if another situation is like that with a certain team, and we won't say who, but you can kind of think that in the NBA.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Brandon Cook's still unhappy. He thought he was going to leave. He even, posted on Twitter, quote, "Don't take a man's kindness for granted. Covered for the lies for too long. Those days are gone. Those days are done, excuse me. Crossed the line with playing with my career." Reminder, he's only 29 years of age. He's been traded 3 times now, from the Saints to the Falcons, or Saints to the Patriots to the Rams.
The Patriots to the Rams, then the Texans.
And now Houston 4 times.
And this guy, it's not like he didn't perform. This is a big FU to the Houston Texans. I don't know what is it. And why would you want to be with a team that's 1-6-1?
Right. And he's done well, over his career. He was a deep threat there with the Saints and Drew Brees. Jared Goff found him in L.A. Tom Brady found him, with the Patriots. He was their best player last year in Houston, remember? I thought he was going to get traded last deadline, and that didn't happen. I don't know if there's just a consensus around the league that says, oh, don't touch this guy. He's in Houston for a reason. He signed there long-term for a reason, But I really thought he was going to be gone. But there's a difficulty with these 3 guys not getting traded. Again, Akers, Kareem Hunt, and Cooks. And I was just shocked really about that. So what was your opinion on these 3 players not getting traded?
You know what's funny? They're going to be Texans. We thought were going to be potentially better than they were. Do you know what the record last year was, James? 4-13.
Yeah. Okay, never mind.
They're 1-6-1, and there could be worse than they were last year. They nearly have the same amount of players, except for Justin Reed, who's in Kansas City, which is a career saver move, I think, for him. My gosh. Your career goes to Houston to die. The Houston Texans are what it is with what's a team in the NBA? I can't remember, but honestly, man, this is just. If I'm Brandon Cooks at this point, if you're not, like you said, Brandon Cooks should have went to Ravens. If you don't trade him like a Baltimore, I'm not saying Brandon Cooks is going to be. This is the same Ravens team Let's sign a 35-year-old receiver in Deshaun Jackson, who's not even going to play on the field with him. I mean, he said the Nets, LOL. Obviously, yeah, that's a whole nother story there. I mean, my gosh, the Texans are just a dumpster. Sell the team. I mean,
Eventually.
last year they were 8 games out of first place last year. Now you're probably like you tie in week 1. I mean, my goodness, Davis Mills is a garbage quarterback. You have guys in the 2023 draft. Cam Akers, I'm surprised because Buffalo, I think, would have been really good. I'm not saying that was going to help him win the Super Bowl, but like this adding those weapons with obviously your first receiver. Now you added depth at the receiver position when maybe a Davis or of these other guys aren't playing as well, if they're hurt for a half a game or a torn whatever after eating Taco Bell. But honestly, man, this is the worst team. Not just this year. They're worse, in my opinion, than the 2019 Dolphins. Because even with the 2019 Dolphins and all that was going on with them talking to Brady and him talking about losing games and all these other drama situations that were happening, at least they were playing and fighting hard and nearly won 6 games. The Texans
they had a better roster too.
They didn't have much of a better roster though. They literally traded everybody. Like their mattering was like 69, 70, 73.
Micah Fitzpatrick after the first game where they lost 59-10.
Oh yeah, Lamar Jackson's first game as a starter. People thought Lamar Jackson team were going to go to Super Bowl. But honestly, it's just because they had Josh Rosen, Fitzpatrick as your quarterback. You had no running backs. Kenny Stills, I think, was still on your team. He's not even in the National Football League anymore, I'm pretty sure. Like, all those guys are pretty much gone, or if not in the league. So it just reminds me, like, not just in a rebuild, but honestly, I would love to see a Super Bowl matchup of the 2019 Dolphins versus the 2022 Texans.
No.
Again, this is not for – this is all for fun. I don't understand it tearing their buttholes with all that talk about. That happened to me the other night with homemade Wendy's Frosty. That's neither here nor there. Chrissy Wilson says that the Texans are awful. Chrissy, you're being generous. What's that? We definitely appreciate you tuning in at this late in time. So surprised that Cooks was exactly. I swear.
Thank you.
Like Cooks has completely underperformed. I say underperformed. Under-talked about his whole career. We go back to – I went to a Texans game last year. Again, partly I didn't pay full price. It was because like during the tour of the stadium that was canceled. We still got the game ticket. But my God, this team's a freaking travesty. You go back to look at his career. All right, from 2015 to 2018, 1,100, 1,000, 1,200, 84 receptions, 78 receptions, 65, 80. Obviously, he's like a Julio Jones, but gets more receptions. At one point, do we not acknowledge that he's a really, really good receiver? What are we going to do? I don't understand why they're wasting his time. We can think of another team that's in another sport, but we'll talk about that after the show. But yeah, I'm more surprised that Brandon Cooks. Like, if these tweets and Instagram isn't fair enough that he doesn't care about you, what if Brandon Cooks went to Buffalo? You're not getting a first or second round pick for him. You're going to get a mid to late round pick. Give that to Buffalo. You got Davis. You got Stephon Diggs. I mean, those would be really, really interesting. Put him in the slot. Put him a little bit downfield. When Diggs is setting out for a couple of plays, you go to Brandon Cooks. You go to Gabriel Davis. You go to your tight end. You go to your running back. And potentially Cam Akers. So it's like you have like the opportunities. Imagine if he went to Buffalo or these other teams, he could contend for a Super Bowl.
That's right.
The thing is, the 1 year he was in New England, they lost against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. So he still doesn't have that ring. Obviously, he doesn't have it with the Saints either or at all in his career. But last year, Brandon Cooks had a career year in almost every single category. But yet nobody was talking about it because the Texans are 4-13. That blows my mind, James. But I'm surprised, man. Brandon Cooks, you deserve better.
Yeah, that's the way I felt last year. Week 9 now, John, of course, started off with Thursday Night Football again. Philadelphia defeating Houston 29-17. And if you watched baseball, you know that Philadelphia also defeated Houston 4-3, I believe, in Game 5 of the World Series. Week 9 action, you got 6 bye teams. There was 2 last week for some reason. It was Kansas City and the Chargers. This week, 6 bye teams. Cleveland, Dallas, Denver, the Giants, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco.
Oh, great, my Bengals don't get a bye week after they play on Monday. Thank you, National Football League.
But Cleveland does. I don't get it.
Screw you, Roger Goodell. It's all good, but come on. It's not fair. It's my bye week now.
Let's start off with the team that had the bye week last week. The Chargers go to the Dirty, the hometown Falcons in Atlanta.
I've
Falcons
not heard that before. The dirty. Usually, I hear that used in other. I've not heard that for that. Hey,
it's an old rap song, you know.
it's all good and fun.
Of course, I'm like 8 years older than you. I was telling myself when you said you're 25, I was like, man, I wish I was 25 again.
Bro, I'm nearly 25. I look like I'm 15 or 16 years old. My security, when I do at this other store, they thought I was still in high school.
That happened.
I graduated nearly 6.5 years ago, James.
4-4 Falcons take on the 4-3 Chargers. Man, the Falcons, survived. DJ Moore, of course, throwing his helmet after catching the game-tying touchdown. Not the game-winning, the game-tying touchdown. He basically did a Stephon Diggs through his helmet. Not really in the moment, not really in the right head frame, and costing the Panthers a longer extra point miss, giving the Falcons a chance to win in overtime after Pinheiro missed another field goal for the Falcons, or for the Panthers, giving Koo the game-winning field goal in overtime. I remember we were texting about it. I was listening to that game on the way to a Buffalo Wild Wings. I was just shocked. 4-4 Falcons.
What'd you get?
Just cheese curds and a couple of beers. I had a big breakfast, and it was like 2:30, whatever it was. I was like, oh, let's get something light.
I've never had cheese curds in my life. I know it's super random to say during the podcast, but I've never had them before.
No, try it, dude. The cheese is awesome.
So after the cheese curds, do I need to? How often is the bathroom trip? Because that's going to be clogged up.
Hour. Given an hour plus.
Oh, that's a Ricky. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. The Chargers. So, Chargers Falcons. I think the Chargers off of their bye week. I think they have enough weapons offensively to do work. Again, they're still without Bosa, I believe. The Falcons getting lucky in these games. Mariota looking good rushing. And he can pass a little bit. He's got a couple of weapons there. Running game's doing okay. I'm going to go with the Chargers in this game, hoping they don't charger it up. What do you think?
Honestly, Keenan Allen, I believe, is out this week. Okay. Again, I don't see how he's going to be there in 2023 and beyond. I just think the Chargers here – I want to look this up because I'm tired. I had a terrible week last week, so I'm not going off my gut instinct like I do when I want you know what? If you want a good stoppage, have Taco Bell and cheese curds. Okay, back to the show. Sorry, that's surgery for a new butthole. Looking at Justin Herbert, 12 touchdowns, 4 picks, but looking at who they played this year, you're 12th in QBR. Yes, top 6 in passing touchdowns and passing yards and all that other good stuff. But looking at who they played, you lose against Seattle by 14 points. You lose against Jacksonville by 28. You lose against Kansas City by 3. You beat the Browns, but only by 2. You barely beat the Broncos in overtime. You beat barely Vegas by 5 points, and yet they're 2.
I was there
on the season. Hey, at least you had a great week 1.
No, I didn't. He lost to the Chargers.
Oh, I was just talking about the Raiders. I was talking about the Raiders one. Sorry.
I remember that game.
There isn't a single game so far on this list that can solidify me to trust the Chargers. I'm picking them to lose by a couple of points because we're like I don't know if that's that much of a hot take because you beat Houston by only 10. You lose against Jacksonville by 4 touchdowns. You lose against Kansas City by 3. You lose against 2 touchdowns to Geno Smith. Again, Geno Smith is playing like he's having a comeback player of the year. What I don't know what you would call it, but he so far he's playing like that. He's in the MVP conversation. But I don't understand like the Chargers. I don't trust the Chargers or Justin Herbert. I trust Tua and the Dolphins more right now than I trust Justin Herbert. What have you solidified and showed me so far? You can't beat Seattle. You can't really contend against Denver. You lose against Jacksonville. You lose against Kansas City. I mean, every game you've won has been by single digits. That, to me, does not solidify that you can stay or keep a lead. So I'm picking the Chargers to lose this game by at least 4 to 5 points.
That's a toss-up, honestly. Speaking of Miami, they go to Chicago. The Dolphins are 5-3. The Bears are 3-5. Miami's surviving their game. Chicago losing in kind of bad fashion. They had 2 turnovers in a row. That pretty much sealed the deal for the Cowboys to win. Bears at 3-5, hosting the Dolphins. I think Miami wins, no doubt about it. The Bears, after these trades defensively, just seem weaker. I know you have Eddie Jackson, among others, in the secondary, but you really don't have a pass rush anymore. Pass rush. I think Tua has a good day. I think the running attack does well. The defense shines against Fields. They get in there. I'm going with the Dolphins in this game. What do you think?
James, how old are you?
33.
I was gonna. Well, I want to say this, not because of you. You don't look 33. I would say this: the Bears might as well have the same record as your age, because they're going to be 2-6 or 3-6. I picked them against the Cowboys, and I was 100% wrong because I didn't say they're going to beat them by 10, 15 plus points or that'd be delusional. Clearly, they're still rebuilding. You get Chase Claypool. I don't know how much that's really going to help you. And like you say right here, man, Chicago looks terrible. I mean, I get they're trying to go for next year. That's great. But right now, you're in 2022, and you need to see with how they play and just Fields plays in certain games what kind of determine what you get in free agency, the draft, and the trade deadline. But yet, they're playing for next year, and just disappointing for Chicago. But, I mean, my gosh. Chicago's going to lose this game. I don't see what Chicago has. Who do you have on offense? Again, I don't see who Chicago has on offense outside of on social media. I'm taking the Miami Dolphins. They're going to be 6-3, nearly my dad's age. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't see in what facet of the game, offense, defense, special teams, or anything, is Chicago better at than Miami.
Running game, possibly. With Herbert and Montgomery. If that works and they control the time of possession, they can make it a game. That's the only way.
But like, even if you control time of possession, Tyreek Hill is first in the NFL in receiving yards. Jay Wallace is second or third in receiving yards. So if you can stop Tua from throwing the ball downfield no more than 3 to 4 times in the first half and the second half, then you have a chance. But if Tyreek Hill and Jay Waddle both have 50 yards by halftime, the game's over. Miami's going 6-3.
I was trying to give Chicago a chance, but obviously that's not going to happen. The meeting of cats. The Carolina Panthers at 2-6.
Oh, I was like, where are you going with this? Whoa!
They face the Cincinnati Bengals at 4-4. Your Bengals. Carolina looked decent. PJ Tucker aired the ball out. That was great to see among, I'm wondering how DJ Moore plays.
Speaking of DJ Moore, they lost the game because of.
Yeah, that was. And I just wonder how he is just after the trade deadline, how he's going to come out, if he's just not going to show up, if he throws a tantrum like Robbie Anderson. I'm be interested to see that.
At least unlike Robbie Anderson, he has earned that tantrum.
That's true. They're at your Bengals, John. I know the Bengals, and I know you want them to respond better. I know you guys are sort of banged up here with Chase and Bates out. Do you see your Bengals coming back and responding? I think they win the game, but I wonder how great they look or even good they look in this game. I'm going with Cincinnati. What do you think?
I sure hope so. You played against P.J. Walker and the Panthers. You better win this game. And I swear on Al Gore's internet, if your dumbass loses this game, I'm coming on air and losing my voice. I'm coming on air. I call for the GM, the owner, and the head coach's job. It's
As you should.
Which I'm picking. I will see my pick. Not because, I'm a homer for my team. You have the quarterback. You have the receivers. Running back again, Dante Foreman is still a really familiar player for the Panthers. I'll give him that. It played at Texas, so that's definitely some pictures there on my part. But I think he's going to come at the quarterback play, and you really can't compare the two. Now, mind you, P.J. Walker still has a really, really good arm. And I think even if they don't win much more games this season, like you talk about, he's been completely disrespected. Obviously, all the talent, Anderson and McCaffrey are gone. Look what he did. I think that he could be a formidable guy like a Heineke in this league.
Yeah, I hope so.
How do you go the way Heineke's had multiple game-winning drives with the Washington Commanders. Again, they're selling the team, so that's another topic for another day. I don't want to we're not going to be toxic here like it was in the workplace. But with that being said, my God, P.J. Walker just has a really good arm. He could be really good. That being said, I trust Joe Burrow more than P.J. Walker. Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. P.J. Walker, I can say he's been overlooked a little bit. I think he's going to play really well. Dante Foreman, Dante Foreman had over 100 yards last week. If you can't stop, and especially with that being the case, they're going to use him a lot in the red zone. If you can't limit the runs in the red zone and force them to field goals, it's going to be a long day. And, I'm looking at our kicker right here for the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
How the fart do you go into the playoffs? Kick after extra point, and you are clutch. And then come the regular season. I'm just going to punt off and take the day off. You see what I did there. But still, my God, the kicker is going to be a big deal. But it's going to come down to our kicker making all those field goals or extra points, and obviously converting and stopping Dante Foreman in the red zone.
Next up, we have an NFC North. I don't want to say battle. It's going to be a game. They have to play it.
It is a game. You're right.
The 3-5 Packers go to Detroit to play the Lions, who are 1-6. I expect Green Bay to win. If they don't, the season's obviously over, and every Packer cheesehead that somebody's going to wear is going to explode. If the Packers do not beat the lowly Lions,
their heads and their hats are going to turn into cheese curds.
Cheese curds. These two, of course,
good, but that means, oh boy, I need a bidet after that. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. These two are, they're on the lower side of the division, obviously, and it's just awkward to see Green Bay struggling like this. For Detroit, again, they've traded Hawkinson. They've gone on a horrible losing streak lately. There's calls for Ford to sell the team, for everybody to get fired. And I like I said, I know you're not for mediocrity, but that's what they are. It's a 5-year plan for Campbell. If they get this win, it would be very helpful for them. But Amon St. Brown would have to play. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Other guys would have to chip in. Jared Goff would have to play perfect. But I think the Packers, again, they have enough talent to beat anybody. But they just have to find a way to beat the Lions to look good again. I'm going to go with the Packers over to Detroit. Lions, what do you think?
After going 5-10 last week, I'm picking the Packers to go 4-5. Like I said, Packers by 12, Pratt probably by 14. Honestly, I really do think, despite what it is, it's Aaron Rodgers or Jared Goff. Regardless of this season or anything else I said about Rodgers, and I believe it's been correctly fair, Jared Goff is not going to outplay Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Jones is going to play really low. Mind you also got to think about it. That Detroit Lions defense is one of the worst in the league in terms of points allowed. Aaron Jones is going to have over 145 yards and all-purpose offensive yards, receiving and rushing. Because if Detroit can't stop the pass, can't stop the run, I mean, expect Aaron Jones to get game MVP. Because I as much as I want to be a homer and have a hot take week, not again. I went 5-10, unlike the Houston Texans and the Carolina Panthers this year. So, but I'm picking the Packers. I really don't see what Detroit's going to do because, again, culture and all this stuff matters. But if you have 1 or 2 wins on the season going to 2023, what does that kind of change how your outlook is on the NFL draft?
This is a game definitely that Aaron Rodgers can take it easy and just run the ball.
Whoa. Don't take it too easy, though. Because we've seen this before, James, where you take it easy and they make a mistake.
Right. I'm just saying, though, like, he would force passes. Or
right, don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah, just hand off the ball. You have Dylan and Jones back there. Just do that. You don't have to throw, really. If you do throw to Tunyon, for key third down passes, it seems so simple, but I think sometimes people or egos get in the way and they try to do it their own way and just overthink things as well, as we've seen with coaches. Remember when Rodgers and Goff, that used to be a great matchup, like 3 years ago?
Sorry.
Yeah, it's not anymore.
I was like, wait, what?
Speaking of great matchups that used to be, the Indianapolis Colts go to New England to face the Patriots. The Colts are 3-4-1. The Patriots are 4-4. They obviously bounced back with the win over the Jets. Colts lost last week by 1 to Washington. New England looked a little better there. The Colts, of course, making that small trade, getting Hines out of town. The Patriots, standing pat. I expect the Patriots to win. They're running well with Stevenson. Mac Jones, despite, getting concussed last week, or it looked like he did, he fared well. No more Zappy talk, basically. This is Jones's team again. And the Colts, I feel like they're in shambles right now. You have Ellinger starting. Jonathan Taylor's not getting the ball. They're trying to get the ball to Pittman. Their tight ends are their main guys right now, and their defense is in shambles. Shaq Leonard, it seems like maybe he's a trade candidate in the offseason. I don't know. Anyway, I think New England wins this game, and I think they win it easily. What do you think?
I don't know, James. I'm having a hard time here. Colts by 5.
Wow. Okay. It could happen.
The defense. Okay. Do I think they're the better team? No. But with how their defense is giving up a lot of runs, look what they did against Chicago. You gave up so many, over 220 rushing yards in that game. Give Jonathan Taylor the ball, it's going to be really good. But that one, I think that's going to be my hot take of the week. I'm pretty sure that one, there's a good chance that could go real ugly, real fast, just like LeBron playing with Kyrie Irving. Sorry, I had to throw that in a little bit as a Cavaliers fan. But I like I said, this game, it's a game that's going to be played. It will be held this Sunday in the National Football League in a football stadium with 2 quarterbacks, with coaches and staff. But it's just one of those, it's there. But I think the Colts will win. Do I think they're better? No. Do I trust, again, Belichick or Frank Reich? It's Belichick. But I just think if you can run the ball, you have a much better chance, especially with what Chicago did. But again, that one I'm hanging on by a thread of that one. Please don't let me down, Sam. I am.
We have a New York battle, and it's upstate versus New Jersey, basically. The Bills go to the home Jets. Bills are 6-1 coming off the Sunday night win. Jets losing, of course, and going to 5-3 now. Lost to the Patriots. I feel like Buffalo's going to run the Jets over. Zach Wilson's just not doing well. They got to get the running game going, but that defense for Buffalo is awesome. Up front, Oliver and others. You got the secondary is great. Offense is, one of the best in the league with Diggs and Davis, Knox. Running game's okay, but Josh Allen's the main rusher there, and he's awesome. I feel like the Jets, they're kind of without Breece Hall. They're done in a way. They had a good run, but it's over. I'm gonna go with the Bills easily going to 7-1. What do you think?
I think it's gonna be the Jets. I'm kidding, James. I'm kidding. Please don't write that down. James.
No, I put Buffalo.
Okay, I was like, wait a minute.
I know you.
First of all, I get there are upsets, but with how Zach Wilson is playing,
it could happen.
It's not going to happen. There's no chance. And again,
I'm not predicting.
I'll come up here to do an apology video.
Mm-hmm.
And again, yeah, it would be a league shaker. But with how the Dolphins are playing, because again, the Jets still have a 500 record. Bless you. Unlike the Texans with their quarterbacks, they're not being very blessed because, I don't see that happen. Zach Wilson just isn't playing football. Like, you look at his numbers, Zach Wilson's going to have a 350-plus yard game, and he hasn't had something over 280 yards this year. Zach Wilson so far, mind you, remember, his first 3-game start to his rookie year was worse than Josh Rosen's first 3-game start in 2018. On top of that, okay, fine. Okay, you had your career game against the Patriots, but he had 3 interceptions, 355 yards.
Take the good with the bad.
The only way for the Bills to lose this game, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs both have to be out for this game. That's the only.
Pretty much.
There's no corners for the Jets that can cover Stephon Diggs, and Josh Allen's not going to get injured though. Like they say, he's not. He hasn't had an injury in his career so far, so I don't think that's definitely going to happen. It's not. I'm sorry. We'll disagree, but I think the whole point of our show. Like, half the time, James and I don't agree, and I mean, look at it. We're so here 10 episodes later. But Zach Wilson, 252 yards, 210, 110, 121. Your best game in your career involved 3 interceptions.
Take the good with the bad, and that's the fact.
You get the bad, and more ugly. You get There's that movie called Eat, Pray, and Love, where there's all. You're praying that he actually has a good game. I mean, my God, your career game in passing yards, you have 3 interceptions. Like I get, like you say, like you're playing devil's advocate. I have no problem. I was really hoping you were. Knock on wood if you hear me.
Oh God.
Clearly they do, because that's a whole something. But seriously though, I don't. But Zach Wilson hasn't shown me any. But even at one throw here and there, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen maybe you throw here and there, maybe you can work on that. It could be a really decent player. There hasn't been a specific play where I'm like, wow, Zach Wilson is the guy. At no point. He's only being talked about because his girlfriend cheated on him. That's the only reason. What has he done for the Jets? Sam Darnold did more for the Jets than Zach Wilson will ever do with New York.
That sounds weird.
But the thing about it, though, because think about it, Zach Wilson, and I say this is going to come out like how I say it is wrong, but it's not. 2,334 yards, 9 touchdowns, 11 picks. I'm not going to say it like in touchdowns because it sounds like I'm saying something else. But 9 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. That's worse than Josh Rosen. And you go into your second year having a worse year in passing yards.
I hope we're wrong.
Though. Like you said, if you're Zach Wilson, I mean, you just need to hand it off. I'm sorry, I would.
Yeah, that's true. One game we didn't think would be good. Minnesota at Washington. The Vikings at 6-1. They survived defeating Arizona. Washington hung on to win in Indy. They're 4-4 and in the thick of things. I really think Minnesota wins this game. They have an abundance of riches. They have 2 good running backs with Matheson and Cook, of course, and then you add Hawkinson with the wide receiving corp they've had. Smith, of course, the defensive player of the year. Just have the great safeties. Gibson and McLaurin, they're going to have great games again, especially Terry McLaurin had a great game last week against Indy. Some clutch catches there. I'm forgetting the team that could have drafted him but didn't, and they really needed a receiver. But it's just funny how things work out, I guess, of who that was going to be. I think it was Chicago. They had a chance at McLaurin but didn't get him. I forget. Or no, I'm sorry. It was Green Bay. Imagine him on Green Bay right now. Affordable and really good.
That's right. Aaron Rodgers this season. Ooh, sorry. I'm a marshmallow right now because he just got roasted, but that's the thing over
there. Heineke has done very well. Like I say on every show, I thought he should have been the starter. They should have gone out and got wins. They like playing for him, and you could tell that with Wentz, it's not that deal. With Heineke, he's a fighter. He's a battle guy, and I really like him. I think Minnesota, though, is going to make Washington fall short. What do you think?
Washington is going to win and get their 4th straight win of the season. Tyler Heineke, there was a stat here talking about how many comeback wins he already had with Washington, which goes back to proving your point. Why didn't you start with Tyler Heineke on the game? You could have a winning record right now. At least play a lot better. There's a stat here. Tyler Heineke. I'm going to look it up. But this guy, I think it's Tyler. I always say it wrong all the time. It's Taylor Heineke, I think. Taylor, make sure I say it right. Taylor Heineke.
It was Tyler.
Yeah, Taylor Heineke. This guy can play football. He's better than Carson Wentz has been with the Colts and the Washington Commanders. Look at his stats in terms of comeback wins. I want to say comeback. Let me look it up. Comeback wins. I mean, this guy, think about it. Against Tom Brady, the year they won the Super Bowl, he nearly beat Tom Brady in the playoffs. Imagine if he did. Even just how well he played. I mean, this guy can play football. I mean, literally, this guy is a former, he's been in the league for how many years?
This is his 3rd year.
That's not his 3rd year, though.
It is? Oh, no, 4th. I don't know.
He's been in the league, I believe, for 4 or 5 years. I mean, let me look this up, though, because I don't want to say something, and then I'm 100% wrong.
I know 2020 is where he shined, and we were like, who the hell is this guy? But he's giving Washington wins.
Literally, he has been in the league since
2015.
He played in Houston, then Carolina, then Washington the past 3 years. And this guy, think about it, this last year, you know what his stats were? 3,400 yards, 20 touchdowns. Yeah, I know 15 picks and everything like that, but still, this guy is putting out Gardner Minshew numbers, but for Washington, and yet you still go after a guy who couldn't beat Jacksonville. Heineke multiple times this year had in the past he's 4 or 5 plus comeback wins already. So what I don't understand is why are we not talking about him more with this team? He won 3 straight comeback wins or 3 wins. That's because of Heineke. That's because of that McLaurin catch was oh my goodness. Right. That wouldn't have happened with Carson Wentz.
He would have threw him short.
He would or an interception or got sacked. Yeah. But the thing is, with Tyler Heineke, like I said, they love playing for him. They have off the field and on the field chemistry. You could have the chemistry with Rodgers and Adams. They had no off the field communication, no on the field, off the field connection. And that clearly showed because now he's in Las Vegas. He never wanted to play for him. They never won a Super Bowl. They never won an AFC Championship game. He lost twice against San Francisco in the playoffs. But this guy, I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Famer in 10 years or anything, but right now, you're riding the hot hand, and he is that guy right now. Well, especially if I'm Ron Rivera, you want to start him for the rest of the season because you're trying to coach for your job, not just in Washington, but in the National Football League, because that's my last point. Ron Rivera is the most overrated head coach in the NFL right now. Ooh. What has he done since 2015? I will sit here. I will go have a beer. I will go call the president. He's done nothing. So why are we giving him a pass? But with Tyler Heineke, you win out or you win you win at least 9 games, even if you miss the playoffs. Your job is safe for 2023. you miss the playoffs and have a losing record, honestly, that you're gone. I mean, this is what I love about the NFL this year. We're talking about unpredictability. P.J. Walker went undrafted, went to the XFL, got a second chance, and he's playing in throwing the ball really well. Tyler Heike, been on 3 teams, now he's playing really well. But I'm going to pick Washington. I think if he's having a ton of these comeback wins, it's like Kirk Cousins is set more mobile in terms of comeback wins. I'm not saying that he's Kirk Cousins or Kirk Cousins is him. I don't know. But I think Washington, and he's that spark maybe they need, because obviously Ron Rivera is going to go with him. Do you want to save your job, or do you want to keep being prideful?
That's true, man. My Raiders go to Jacksonville. The Raiders, of course, without Nate Hobbs again. He's on the IR with a broken thumb. They showed up to the game in New Orleans. They didn't really play it.
They did. Because they were still in the hotel. Okay.
They should have stayed in the hotel. They lost 24-0. They're 2-5 now. Jacksonville lost in London to Denver, Broncos country. That's right? Question mark.
No. Actually, thanks that you did that. We're gonna be playing this just for you, James.
Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's ride.
I just played it 3 times because that's how many wins they're gonna get. No, I'm just kidding.
It's true. The Jacksonville Jaguars now 2-6. Of course, they made the big trade. Well, not big, but James Robinson is gone now. Trevor Lawrence looks really bad, but he's playing a Raider defense that can make him look as projected, let's just say. I'm going to go with Jacksonville. I feel like the Raiders are just not wanting to play well. They never travel well on the East Coast. They never do well. I don't know what it is, but they stayed in the South and again at the IMG Academy. And again, I hope they learned something from those young players. I just don't have confidence in them. And it seems like every time I pick the Raiders, they lose. So hopefully it's a jinx and I'll take the hit if the Raiders can get a win. So I'm going to go Jacksonville. Maybe Etienne Jr. He's going to have a field day against the Raider defense. There's no doubt in my mind. They can't stop the pass. They can't stop the run. They can't do anything right except A.J. Cole punting. And that's about it. So I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. What do you think?
Speaking about overrated, Ron Rivera is 35-44, but we'll go back to that later. James, I can't believe. Wrong again. I'm picking the Raiders, not because of Trevor Lawrence. What Trevor Lawrence showed me against Denver is that he's not ready to help this team take the next step. Because some of these, obviously, I picked the Jacksonville to win because they play in London a lot, and it's literally Russell Wilson.
Broncos country, let's ride.
But some of those still mental decisions that Trevor Lawrence is making, I haven't seen a single throw all year where he's making that throw with 100% confidence. Geno Smith has made multiple throws with confidence. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Tyler Heineke, so many of these other quarterbacks, or Kirk Cousins, Rodgers when they won those 3 games, making some of those throws with confidence. He doesn't have that confidence whatsoever. So I'll have the Raiders. I don't think I'm not saying it's gonna be like a 42-30 type of game or anything great. No. But I think the Raiders are going to get their edge on this game and get some momentum going into the next week. But I'll pick the Raiders to win this game because I don't trust Trevor. I don't trust Derek Carr either. He didn't show up last week. I think David Carr was playing last week, not Derek Carr. But, I mean, honestly, what do you see from Trevor Lawrence? I mean, look, the decisions he's making, he's not playing like a first overall pick. He's playing like a 4th-round pick at best this season. Think about it. You started off the year. I found this video. I don't remember if I still have it. They started off the year 2-1. Oh, I think we look like a great team.
Oh yeah.
And then you're now 2-6. So I'm sorry, but I think the Jaguars. If you can't pick it up next year, I don't think Trevor Lawrence can be there 2 years from now.
When they were 2-1, I remember. I think Trevor Lawrence in a post-game interview or something like that.
Yeah,
we're a really good team.
I think that can really show that we're a really good team, and then lost. And then CBS literally posted a video. LLLLL.
Yeah.
CBS is roasting football play. I've never seen that before on TikTok. But hey, they're not wrong. I mean, you talk all the talk about we're pretty. It's the first 3 games. Chill to flip out, and then you go loss, and you lose in your home stadium in London.
Well, don't worry. The Raiders are coming in, and they're going to make him look like an MVP. The next matchup, you got a NFC West. Surprisingly, maybe a good game here. Seattle at Arizona. Seattle 5-3, Arizona 3-5. Arizona, of course, coming off the loss in Minnesota. Seattle coming off the win at home against the New York Giants. Seattle's riding a high right now with Geno Smith, and of course, that's the title of this podcast right now is Geno Smith for real. Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe he's in a good situation, and he has somewhat good weapons. He has a running game that's really running well with Kenneth Walker the third or fifth. The third. And then you throw in Homer, who runs very tough, very hard. And I was watching the late games, by the way, with some Seahawk fans, and they were giving me, all the, stats and all the happenings of Seattle, because I haven't watched the game since, week 1 where they beat Denver, where they keep surprising teams, basically. But they have good running game. Geno Smith is making, seamless passes, smart passes. He's not trying to do too much, which I love. You have Arizona team. Kyler Murray, he's busy with the Call of Duty. You have DeAndre Hopkins.
He's focused on Call of Duty, therefore he's playing like duty.
Yeah. They make the trade for Robbie Anderson. I'm hoping you see him make a contribution. Seattle's defense, though, they're kind of no name other from Bruce Irvin, who seems like he's been there forever, but he really hasn't. This defense, they're pretty awesome. And I mentioned on the last show we did how their draft class this year was awesome. They have about 8 or 9 players making an impact, which is very hard to do. They did it in 2012 as well. I'm going to go maybe with an upset. I'm going to go with Seattle over Arizona in this game. I think they manage the time well. They get to Kyler Murray. He runs around like a little toddler or a little chicken trying to get rid of the ball. I think Seattle wins this game and it proves to 6-3. What do you think, John?
This is not an upset. Geno Smith is playing like better quarterback than Kyler Murray this season. Usually it's the other way around for Arizona. You start out hot and then kind of go downhill towards the end of the season. Just like every Call of Duty. Starts out really well, people are loving it, and then it kind of goes downhill. Just like Madden and 2K every single year. Just like my body after I had Taco Bell and cheese curds. I just don't see what this team is doing. You trade for Robbie Anderson's going to have to be the factor with DeAndre Hopkins.
Yes.
DeAndre Hopkins and Robbie Anderson are going to have to play like Tyreek Hill and Jay Waddle have all season. Because if your receivers aren't getting the ball down the field and you're not catching deep balls and converting on, there are going to be certain plays in this game, James, at some point. I don't know when. 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15. You need that catch down the field. You need that play action. You need that screen. And if you can't convert that over 65% of the time, you're not going to win because Geno Smith is throwing the ball really well. He's throwing with confidence. He's playing, but he's the best quarterback in that division for right now. Anything is subject to change. Unlike Kyrie Irving and his attitude. I mean, my gosh, but I just have to roast players here. It's all good and fun. But I'll pick at Seattle. We're gonna go 6-3, and imagine this, James. Okay, Seattle goes 6-3. The next couple weeks, they get a wild card spot. Pete Carroll should be coach of the year.
Yeah,
because if you take a guy who his whole career, you can't be surprised. Like, oh, I saw something in Geno. Geno Smith has never played like this, even in one game in his entire career before 2022. And to take a guy like Geno Smith, resurrect his career to help him potentially get the bag in 2023, I mean, this guy could be I say could. I'm not saying he is or hinting at it. He could be the guy for the next 5 years. I say could. But again, if he starts playing like Geno Smith again, then I'm like, hey, I told you so. I mean, I'm not sold on him like being a long-term answer. But for this season, I don't tell me, you take Geno Smith to the playoffs, which he's never done, and get into a playoff game and play well. You should be. I mean, look at it. Look at the Browns. Same thing with the Browns. Baker Mayfield from that team went to the playoffs. Costa Stefanski won Coach of the Year. Same thing with Pete Carroll. You go into it. Obviously, Pete Carroll is a Coach Hall of Famer one day at USC, college football, NFL, 2 back-to-back Super Bowls, 3 straight, and nearly went to 3 straight national championships and won 2 out of the 3. Hugh Jackson's the defensive coordinator. But taking Geno Smith to the playoffs, I think is something that no other head coach could do. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how they're doing it. I'm happy that I'm wrong, but I think it's sad. I don't trust Arizona. I don't trust Cliff Kingsbury. I know this is just the one game a week or 2 ago, but the fact is, if your quarterback has to tell the head coach, calm the bleep down against the Saints, who beat the Raiders, then I'm not saying it's like a thing, but you get my point. Like, then if your quarterback who keeps more composure, where your agent threw a tantrum back in February on Twitter, I can't trust him. I really don't.
Okay, so the other afternoon game, there's only 2 afternoon games, by the way, because of this matchup that was highly touted. The LA Rams at 3-4 go to Tampa to play the Bucks at 3-5. This game just seems to be like what could have been and what the reality is now. Tom Brady's playing, career low, honestly.
Like crap.
Matthew Stafford, at least he's out there. He had the elbow surgery and whatever. Cooper Kupp, avoided a serious ankle injury. Akers comes back. That kind of makes things awkward, I believe. Not much is expected in this game. Maybe Mike Evans has a great game, but you have a lot of banged up players on each team. You have many holes for each offense. The defense for the Rams isn't that good, but they have a lot of star power. The Bucks, they're kind of failing on both sides. Offensive line can't protect Brady. He's throwing balls to the ground. He can't get it, up in the air anymore. I think the Rams win.
Well, sorry.
But it's probably going to be like 17-15, some awkward score like 12-9, 12-7, 12-10, something you're not going to remember when these two faced each other. Remember last year in the playoffs, it was a thrilling end to that game. That's not going to happen in this game. I'm going to go LA, but I really don't know. I'll be watching the Seahawks Cardinals anyway, but the rest of the country is going to get this game. What do you think?
I am betting against Thomas Brady Edward Patrick Jr. I try to tell people things off the field are going to affect us on the field play, which is why I'm betting against Thomas Brady Edward Patrick Jr. When are we going to stop giving excuses? We know we're not talking about his all. This is what the problem was. Like, I have to skip this and other guys. Like, oh, Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls. I don't give a flats, green earth, whatever that he won 7 Super Bowls. We're talking about right now where Geno Smith is playing better football than you. The decisions you're making are absolutely dreadful, absolutely stupid. And what I don't understand is why Brady's getting a pass. Brady is not winning. This is the same team where this happened, James. This is the same team.
Oh, God.
It's not a highlight. What do you call it? A pass interference call. Roughing the passer.
Roughing the passer, yeah.
This is the same team where they're going to have more losses, or maybe potentially as many losses as his marriage lasted. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I don't understand why Brady gets back. He doesn't. He's played like crap all year. I'm sorry, no excuses. Should have lost against the Cowboys. The defense bailed him out. One of your defensive players, remember, is out for the year with a torn ACL. So I think it's Levante David, I believe. David, so he's out, 33, 34 years old. So he could be gone out to 2023, 2022. Now he said Bucks coming back with a win. I don't see it. I'm sorry. But looking at Brady this year, you lost against Mitchell Trubisky and P.J. Walker back-to-back weeks. 2 backup quarterbacks you lost against. So if you lose against 2 backup quarterbacks in back-to-back weeks who replaced the starter after a couple of weeks, how are they going to win this week? Like, I don't see it. Bucks are losing.
Yeah, Bucks are really banged up. I was looking at the injury report. I won't know more tomorrow, Saturday for sure. Okay, Sunday Night Football. This is a tale of 2 teams that are 5-2, but it's a different 5-2 record for each. Tennessee limped their way to 5-2. Kansas City kind of selling to 5-2. I think Kansas City wins this game pretty easy. Tennessee is one-trick pony with Henry, which is awesome, but they're putting the rookie quarterback out there. I just don't see that working for this year. Remember against the Bills on that Monday night? I think it was the first Monday night game. That really didn't go well.
They put Malik Willis towards the end of the third quarter.
Right. And he has to face now Kansas City, which their defense isn't too. They're not that bad. They make some plays.
They're much better than they were the previous year.
Oh yeah, and they're coming off a bye week. Tennessee, of course, played last week. And won, but I'm gonna go with Kansas City. It's gonna be probably like 40-6. What do you think?
First of all, I'm picking Kansas City because here's the fact. I don't see in any facet of the game where Tennessee has a chance. You're playing it's a rookie quarterback.
Right.
That's all. I have nothing else to say. I'm disrespecting Tennessee. We're done. Excuse me, folks. James had some
allergies. Monday Night Football. You got Baltimore at 5-3 facing the Saints, who are 3-5. Of course, Baltimore getting an extra couple days off here. Remember, they played Thursday Night Football. They beat the Bucks. They get a couple of extra days off, like I mentioned. They play the Saints, of course, who are 3-5. I'm going to go with the Ravens here. I just think that with their new additions, maybe they'll be a little better here. Roquan Smith hopefully will get a chance to ball out, and they'll welcome him with open arms. Unfortunately, Rashad Bateman, of course, will be out for Baltimore, but hopefully Mark Andrews does better. You throw in Devon Way, Jackson's going to do his thing on the ground. It's a testament, though, to Lamar Jackson and all he's been through this year, and hopefully he shows on the national spotlight what he really can do pretty much by himself. It was that Tyler Perry movie, I Could Do Bad All By Myself. New Orleans Saints, though, they had an easy game last week against the Raiders. They showed what Alvin Kamara can really do. Again, all bad by himself. Andy Dalton looked okay. You get Olave involved, Chris Olave. Maybe the Saints can make it interesting, but I think Baltimore holds on. Hopefully we have like a Justin Tucker game winner. Hopefully that would be thrilling for Monday Night Football. What do you think?
Had some issues here. More technical issues in the Bengals offensive line. I'm sorry, I had to get in there. Baltimore is 6-3. I don't see how they lose. I really don't.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I'll read if you want to read the Twitch comments, I'll read the Facebook comments. If we had any more Twitch.
All of them were pretty much Twitch. Except Chrissy's was Facebook, yes, but I think we're seeing a lot of more Twitch viewers the past couple episodes that I've seen. So we'll probably do Twitch and YouTube. Let's go back to we're real soul rebel. He's saying Zach Wilson, you just need to hand off. Darnold is a bum too, though, man. I'm not saying Darnold's a great quarterback. I know he's a bum. But compared to how Zach Wilson is playing, they're both bums. But which bum is worse? The left bum or the right bum? It is clearly the left bum right now. Depending on how many cheese curds you have. You say, do you guys get a lot of videos on Facebook? Honestly, we don't. Because, like I said, our work schedule is all over the place. We have a new work schedule. And it's just going to be, like, late at night. So, like you said, Twitch has been definitely that main source there. You say, I only broadcast to Twitch when I stream. That made a good point that I think we'll try, like, Twitch and YouTube and change the category to, like, flip the sports. So I kind of see it gets more viewers in there. Then you also say, how about the Masters tonight? Great World Series game tonight, too. Definitely great. They definitely played pitcher perfect, just like those trash cans. I mean, what? Sorry. I said, oh, dang, he's been around for a while. Talking about Tyler Heineke.
Yeah, I didn't know
in
either.
2017. I'm going Washington by at least a field goal. But seriously, I agree with the old Riverboat. Ron Rivera isn't crap. He's like 35 wins since 2017, 2018. Obviously, the most overrated head coach in the National Football League. He's like the Baker Mayfield of head coaches. I was glad we got rid of him in Carolina, talking about, I believe, Ron Rivera to the Jags, losing again. You can't spell Jags without L, even though you can. Says, I'll take the Raiders this week. You go against your own team? Okay.
It's a jinx.
Wrong again, James. Trevor Lawrence is going to end up like Blake Capper.
Oh, no.
Trevor Lawrence is going to end up like Blake Bortles or Matt Leinart, LOL. Matt Leinart's last win was not against UT, by the way. Geno coming in hot like he got the feds on his day. Definitely a thing there. I think Seattle's going to have a tough matchup this week with the Arizona offense. I do think so, but if Robbie Anderson and DeAndre Hopkins cannot get catches down the field, it's going to be a long game. If Murray has a good game, which isn't favorable, LOL, the littlest you be. Clearly, he does watch Coco Melon when he does rage quit on Call of Duty. He runs like a toddler. I think I got this. You cracked me up, James. You know what I think about that small body but big head? I think of the George Lopez show back in the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah, of course.
They would do flashbacks and George, oh, my little, ta loca, what you mean? And like his big head but small body. That's what I think about with Kyler Murray. Like, I didn't get the win. Pete Carroll's not going to get to the Coaching Hall of Fame without a doubt, even before this year. But this is still another indication. Say most likely. Bucks coming back with the win.
Maybe.
It's possible, but I am obviously betting against Thomas Brady, Edward Patrick Jr. So say you guys got to watch this. We'll check that after the show. Said Kansas City, baby. You can't get Patrick Mahomes. I'm here. I am here. I am here in the game. I'm going to throw 4 touchdowns. I'm going to be sponsored by Heinz Ketchup. I'm going to have a giant stag. Whoop-de-doo. Derrick Henry gets the short end of the stick. I'm sorry. I'll try again. The Ravens for sure. How about Monday Night Football? Really like a good show. We appreciate my man. Like I said, we put in the work. We do the work, and we will see you later. Bye-bye, Miss Piggy. You're really fat. That's what they call you. I would love to call in sometime and talk with you guys. Definitely try to set that up in the future. The work schedule is going to be really interesting after these next couple of weeks, so we'll get that out. We'll make sure we do the show, even if it's at crazy hours, even if we're able to, because like I said, this is a lot of fun. I wouldn't be doing it at 3 o'clock in the morning if it wasn't any fun whatsoever. And that is our last comment. Back to you, James.
For Facebook here, I remember Chrissy Wilson saying that she was still surprised that Cooks wasn't traded. She also said, I heard Cooks was going to be traded to the Cowboys, but nothing happened.
I wonder if that was before Amari Cooper or after Amari Cooper trade to Cleveland.
Maybe she was talking about, last week.
I mean, it could be, because I think if you're going to trade Amari Cooper for a bag of chips and a bottle of steak, you need to get Brandon Cooks. It's that easy. And Brandon Cooks in Houston is like this. I'm here. I'm ready to get about 5 to 10 touchdowns. I'm ready. I am ready. What are you doing? You dumbass. What are you doing? But he's still there.
Chrissy also mentions her nemesis in the NFC East, that the Eagles are winning again. They improved, of course, to 8-0 and on Thursday Night Football yesterday. And she also says, hashtag screw you, Roger Goodell.
100%.
And then John, somebody named Isaiah Leong. I don't know who that guy is.
I don't know what that means. It's probably a spam bot.
I think so. He says, is McDaniels good as gone following another lengthy meeting, quotation marks, with Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders? Isaiah, I don't even want to answer your question, but I have to. I think it'd be proper, I guess.
Yeah.
But listen, they had a meeting after the Titans game when they went 0-3, right? Sure, they won a couple of games since, but they also lost more. I really can't see this thing going past 2 years with McDaniels unless a miracle happens. I think McDaniels is already on a hot seat here with the Raiders. You bring in Adams, you're supposed to be hitting him more than just once. One catch for 3 yards, that's just horrible. Carr needs more protection, but a lot of that was traded away in order to get Adams there. Josh Jacobs, who has performed awesome, that eventually will run out. He'll eventually be gone in free agency. The Raiders, I don't think, have enough cap room. And as you mentioned with running backs, you get them as young as you can and don't pay them when that time comes up. Don't do the Ezekiel Elliott route, right?
Running backs are like iPhones. They're same thing you can get every year, not much of a difference, and it's still going to get the job done.
And if you drop them, they'll probably break after a while. Not to be that harsh, but it's true with iPhones.
It's a fact.
Yeah. To finish up the Raiders here with Josh McDaniels with Isaiah, some dude named Isaiah. He's definitely on the hot seat. He's been, ever since the 0-3 start. The fan base, I can tell, is in shambles about him. Most of them saying, well, we've gone through so many head coaching changes. We need to have someone that is around for a while. But results have to come up, right? So
yeah, you trade for Devontae Adams. That's not screaming rebuilds. Think about it. This could be the first head coach, James, that fails twice in the same division. I don't get it.
Right.
If you lose against Jacksonville, you're done. Because you're not going to let go of Derek Carr. You can't technically let go of him until, I believe, was it next year or the year after. So if I'm the Raiders, you definitely have to go after a quarterback in next year's draft and let him sit behind Carr for the next couple of years and then move on. Because I get, obviously, Devontae Adams wanted to work with Derek Carr, obviously, because y'all nearly died together in college, you're brothers for life. I respect that. But it hasn't resulted in a lot. Besides, a cameraman milking the injury more than Calvin Benjamin did at the receiver position.
It's almost like Devontae Adams is in the wrong place, it seems like. He should be back with Green Bay.
If this is an indication, before we potentially go and just second the final thoughts, that in sports, grass is not always greener on the other side. I compare it to Kyrie Irving leaving Cleveland, going to Boston.
Yes.
Obviously, there was some issues. They said he was going to re-sign. He told the kids he would. You don't lie to kids. That's one of the biggest crimes ever. And then he obviously goes to another team, and then now he's where he's at now, and it clearly has not worked out.
Shame, 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 shame. Final thoughts here, and quickly, John, I got to mention this. Great guy passed away at the age of 72. There on Thursday night. He was a 3-time Super Bowl champion with the Raiders. That's Oakland and LA.
He was John Madden's team, yeah.
Right. He was the first punter to ever make the Hall of Fame. and I think there's been a couple ever since.
Pat McAfee needs to be one of them, maybe. I don't know.
He came out of southern Mississippi, and he was the first ever punter to be taken in the first round. And when you think of punters, the highest they go is what, like the 4th round, 5th round. But think about that. Al Davis drafted him in the 1st round. That's how good I think Al Davis's brain was and scouting was until a certain point when he started just to lose it. But he was drafted 23rd was guy in the 73 draft. He played his whole 14-year career with the Oakland and LA Raiders. And he was a 3-time All-Pro selection player. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2014. He was a 7-time Pro Bowl player, and he was selected to the NFL's 100th anniversary team and the All-Decade team of the 1970s. Some say he's the best punter of all time. John Madden, who also passed away, last year, mentioned Ray Guy was a football player who punted. You know how the story goes.
That means the ball goes forward.
Yeah. He's mentioning, though, how kickers and punters aren't really known as football players.
They're disrespected.
Yeah, very much. But he was the standard when it comes to punting. As you know, John, my favorite play in football, which the show is perfect punt off, right, is the down punt within the 5-yard line. They used to have this thing called the coffin corner punt. That's gone now. But whenever the ball is down, at the 1 or 2 yard line, and the opponent's offense has to start all the way back there, and if you go, you force a 3 and out, you get a good chance to score, at field position. So I always felt like punting was so huge. Ray Guy was the first punter that I think people tracked the hang time on punts. I don't think anybody ever did. I don't think anybody ever punted as high and as far as Ray Guy before and maybe after. There could be some, certain punters out there who did well. Marquette King was one of them with the Oakland Raiders some years ago. He kind of drifted off into whatever. But the history of the Raiders, when you think of punters, you got Shane Leckler, Ray Guy, Throwing King. Leckler was there, just like Guy forever. So we never had a shortage of punters. And Ray Guy was definitely the best punter, I think, ever in the NFL. On the All Madden team, which is, pretty much the highest accolade you could have when it came to toughness and greatness in that world, let's just say. But just got to say rest in peace, definitely, to Ray Guy. Again, he passed away at 72 on Thursday, the 4th here, or the 3rd here, and he'll be missed. But his hang time ability, his punting ability, will go hand in hand with every punt you'll see this week in football. And forever he'll be known as a Raider and as a great player. What's your final thought, John?
And the famous words of Curtis Consworth, man, here's a guy. But really, though, I think when you talk about the hang time, that was because of him. If you're really big, like, think about it, back in the day, we always talk about the quarterbacks or Frank or Harris or the Steel Curtain defense. We never really talked about Guy. I say Guy, but like him as a punter and as a player. To be a punter, especially in the physical game back then, to be in the All Madden team, I mean, that is the highest, not just football but sports honor. Because I think obviously John Madden changed the game of football, but sports in general in terms of commentating. And he really made that big splash when he got that deal from Fox back in the 90s for like $30-40+ million. But that's neither here nor there. But basically, he had a really, really good, phenomenal career. I think he set the tone of kickers getting some respect, and kickers should get, and punters should get more respect in the National Football League, and especially if they know how to play. Because you guys look at guys like who Pat McAfee was when he had that insane tackle, who Justin Tucker had 76 yards, I think, or 67 yards, a NFL all-time record. Kickers are getting certain stats. because of him, because what he did to establish it in a very, very tough game. But a phenomenal career, and like I said, special teams is definitely the most important thing for a football team. So you can have the greatest quarterback. If you don't have kickers who can get the game-winning field goal, ask the Buffalo Bills how I feel about a kicker. But like I said, a phenomenal career, and I don't think we're going to see a punter like him ever. He's the greatest punter of all time. I don't think it's a debate. I'm not saying it because he just passed away or to be nice. He's a Hall of Famer as a punter.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. And that's the only punter, really, I can think of that's on the All-Madden team. That's an NFL Hall of Fame. Greatest punter of all time, no doubt.
You want to?
But yeah,
I want to exit out the game and get our last few comments, and then we're gonna go bye-bye. My guy, y'all are entertaining me. Definitely appreciate you go check him out as he does some live streams on Twitch, and we're probably gonna do I think this on Twitch and just YouTube because we don't really get a lot of views on Facebook in general. Twitch has been the main source of views, even if we didn't show up in comments. We appreciate it. We're probably gonna go live around the same time on Monday night. If not, we will definitely update y'all with the video on Twitch. But either way, we will be live on Monday. So Roger, go flip yourself. Good show. Whatever happened to Kelvin Benjamin was a former receiver.
Oh,
for the
yeah.
Carolina Panthers. He apparently had some issues with his weight, and there were some issues with that. And then he was with Kansas City and Buffalo in 2018 as a tight end when Kansas City had that run in 2018, and then hasn't played in the National Football League since.
Remember Booger McFarland, the Monday night?
Oh, yeah. He's one biscuit away from being Booger McFarland said this. Kelvin Benjamin.
I love that.
I mean, Kelvin Benjamin was as big as Booger McFarland's head, but that's neither here nor there. He said, Kelvin.
I love that.
On live TV, he said, Kelvin Benjamin is one Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
That's why I love Booger. He's
no a savage for that. Definitely a hilarious area. Like I said, he only had 20 touchdowns in his career with only 3,000 yards. And definitely had a failed career. And like I said, kind of like Eddie Lacy, where he had a potential to be a future really, really great player. But like I said, with weight and whatever else was going on off the field, I don't know. It's nothing about the best. Like I said, special teams is so slept on now 100%. Seriously, a good kicker could have won that Panthers-Falcons game. Obviously, no doubt. Said, ha, Lord, I am dead. Just like the Jets season because they can't pick a quarterback. That's neither here nor there. You, James, can punt off. You, Real Soul Rebel, can punt off. Obviously, appreciate check out the show. Thank you so much to Pierce Wilson.
And bye-bye.
Come on, Zimmer. What are you doing?
You're 1-5. Nothing's going right for you.
Because if they can't beat the Rams both times this season, how are they going to win a division?
With the 1-5 record, but still has confidence in their leadership. We still got 11 more games to go. Everybody's been clamoring for her to sell the team.
It would be interesting if that happened.